Technically, DJ's animal curse starts at the beginning of the season, but removing it doesn't change any of the eliminations before this episode, since none of them are related, nor was DJ's animal curse the cause of any of the losses. The only difference is that those scenes of DJ hurting animals obviously wouldn't happen, but none of those scenes change the outcome of any episodes until we get to this one in Paris. DJ doesn't have a curse, he doesn't spend the entire episode trying to get the Egypt dog, and instead just helps Lindsay in the challenge. And considering that Lindsay alone almost won the challenge without DJ's help, and only ended up losing after DJ broke the statue of the animal curse stuff, I think now that DJ can act as extra big arms to carry the statue pieces, that Team Victory can actually get another victory here, coming in first place. Originally, Team Amazon got their statue done first, meaning they would complete their statue after Team Victory, and Team Chris is Hot would be going to elimination now. This is a really tough vote to predict, since obviously this team doesn't go to elimination until much later in the season, because of Team Victory. So we don't have any clear ideas for who early targets are on the team. I do think Alejandro and Tyler somewhat come as a pair, since even though they haven't had a ton of scenes together so far, we do see a little later in the season that they work pretty closely together, since Tyler likes Alejandro's skills. And they probably end up voting for Owen, since Alejandro obviously isn't a fan of Owen, nor is he really a challenge asset that's useful to keep around. But Noah and Owen also come as a pair, and I think Izzy is also very close on that as well, meaning those three are the majority, and they decide who goes home. It is possible that Izzy does classic Izzy shenanigans and votes for someone random just to be crazy, but we have seen in the show that she does at least sometimes vote normally. So for this case, just to simplify it, I'm gonna say she votes normal and follows whatever Noah and Owen vote. Now, it would seem that Alejandro would be the boot here, since we see in London that Noah distrusts Alejandro a great deal, but one, we don't know if that is present in Noah now, or if something causes him to think that between now and London. I do think Noah probably still doesn't trust Alejandro, but the big thing is Alejandro is the only reason Team Chris hasn't been losing miserably, and I think Noah would know that. If you pay close attention to what Noah says to Owen and when talking about Alejandro in London, he never says anything to the extent of actually voting out Alejandro. He just says general things about keeping an eye on him in the future. So Noah using very intentional language that doesn't directly say to vote out Alejandro, and then him and Owen then voting for Duncan that episode, I think it definitely shows that Noah does see the value to keeping Alejandro on the team, at least for now since it's still too early into the season. Meanwhile, Tyler doesn't offer anything challenge-wise. He has been completely useless in the challenges, with the only exception being the Yukon where he uses strong fingers to save them in the sled challenge, but that's about it. So I think the team of three here directed by Noah would actually vote out Tyler in a 3-2 vote, seeing as he isn't very useful to the future of the team. Tyler is upset to be eliminated as Lindsay comes in shortly after the vote, giving Tyler a hug before he gets eliminated, as Lindsay glares very madly at Team Chris. Alejandro would be decently surprised at this turn of events, and this is the first time we see Alejandro properly upset, as something in his plans has finally gone wrong, and this episode ends with Alejandro having a confessional telling Noah he just messed with the wrong handsome devil, and he will pay very dearly, while clenching his fist. The episode starts with DJ and Lindsay in first class, as DJ is comforting Lindsay, who's upset about losing Tyler. DJ does a pretty good job of comforting her, but it does worry him to see her like this since they're a two-person team, so we need Lindsay to be trying her absolute hardest so they can keep winning. Team Amazon and Team Chris have their typical back and forth in economy class, with mostly Heather and Alejandro going at it, but Noah also starts to speak back against Heather too, starts to show the first resemblance of him semi-taking over as a team leader, which definitely rubs Alejandro the wrong way. The cast gets thrown into the water, and like the original, DJ starts to flail since he can't swim, but Lindsay helps him out, tossing him a pillow to use as a floating device. Not that that really matters, but it does show how well Lindsay and DJ work together. The first challenge with the teams using their boats to go to the shore does have some minor differences due to the changes. Even though it's not just DJ on Team Victory, I do think they still get the boat motor since they're still at a very heavy number disadvantage. Obviously DJ isn't trying to quit anymore since he mostly wanted to do that because of the animal curse, but that obviously isn't here anymore, meaning he and Lindsay would just compete in the challenge. However, Lindsay would still be a bit of a drag, not helping a lot since she's still really sad about losing Tyler. Also, Heather wouldn't be trying to help DJ out like she did originally. Since Team Chris voted out Tyler, I imagine Heather would already imagine that Team Victory are against them. The changes with Heather staying on the boat wouldn't really affect much. Gwen would still see Duncan's outline and they would stop to check it out, since Courtney was the one guiding the boat as the somewhat, boat captain, so she'd stop the boat to go see Duncan when Gwen brings it up. I think Heather would disagree with this decision, but the majority of the team would do it anyway, ignoring Heather. However, one change we would see is that in action, Heather was able to pick up on Gwen's lying very quickly when she was trying to throw, and since Gwen had a very similar scene here when Duncan is brought up, Heather would notice that. It obviously isn't enough for her to instantly assume Duncan is cheating on Courtney with Gwen, but it does make Heather aware that Gwen is clearly hiding something. And of course, Tyler isn't here with Team Chris, but that doesn't really change anything, as I still think Alejandro would take over as boat captain, since even though Noah has the control, we do see that he goes on the sidelines a lot because he doesn't really care. Plus, Alejandro is obviously a good leader, and by Noah stepping back and letting Alejandro take over as leader, that only helps the team since Alejandro cares more about winning because he will obviously be eliminated if the team loses, as he's on the outs. So Alejandro has the greatest incentive to do a good job at being the leader. And Noah does make many jabs at Alejandro about that during the singing section, about how he's on the outs and he's being used as a puppet to just make the team win because he needs the team to win, which gets on Alejandro's nerves again, but he doesn't say anything. Besides that, the first challenge plays out the same with Team Victory and Team Chris is hot moving on to the next challenge, as Team Amazon is out because they lost too much time stopping for the Duncan outline. Since there are different team numbers, the relay is split up a little differently. Team Chris is hot still has Owen and Izzy chugging the apple cider, but Chris notices the microaggressions with Noah and Alejandro and decides to make it more entertaining by having them both compete to decode the phrase by ex-cousin, and then whoever doesn't do it first would have to kiss the kata in the last part. As for Team Victory, either of them are allowed to do any part of the relay. The only requirement is that both of them have to complete at least one part, because it's a relay and it wouldn't really make sense if just one person was doing it, because that's not really a relay. The first part of the relay where they have to chug the apple cider plays out the same, with Izzy and Owen doing it, and DJ finishing shortly after, like the original. Also, since DJ luckily guesses and decodes a sentence when he has to pee after the apple cider, that would still happen, giving Team Victory a lead to the next part, but since DJ did both parts of the relay so far, Lindsay is forced to kiss the cod for the last part. Alejandro and Noah would both be competitive about trying to decode the phrase again, but Alejandro, like the original, would be able to figure it out as he gets a very smug look on his face while looking at Noah expectantly for the cod. Noah, for obvious reasons, I think would struggle to kiss the cod, as would Lindsay, but DJ would try to motivate Lindsay, to which she says she just can't imagine kissing anyone that isn't Tyler right now, since she's still sad that he's gone. And that comment gives DJ the idea to tell Lindsay to think of the fish as Tyler, and like how Tyler was able to imagine the fish as Lindsay and kiss it, Lindsay is able to do the same and kiss the fish passionately imagining it as Tyler, giving Team Victory the win, as Noah still would refuse to do it. DJ would pull Lindsay in for a big hug as they celebrate winning again, and Chris is shocked at Team Victory pulling their team around as they've won the last 3 challenges in a row. Alejandro would take this time to make jabs at Noah for costing them the challenge, which Owen and Izzy do slightly agree with since he did choke at the end. This doesn't mean that Owen and Izzy are exactly on Alejandro's side, but it does show that Alejandro is starting to work his magic, which does worry Noah a bit. And that wasn't very useful because it was a word challenge, but yeah, you get it. The beginning of the episode would show Lindsay and DJ celebrating in first class, as Lindsay says kissing the cod last episode really helped her stop being sad over Tyler, as now she wants to put in 100% of her energy to get back in the game to keep winning for him. Even though Heather didn't try as hard to get Team Victory on her side last episode, I do think now that they've won 3 challenges, Heather is realizing they might actually be in for the long haul, meaning she should work with them because if Team Chris can somehow get them on their side, then they have the numbers against Team Amazon. So like last episode, just happening now, she would go through the vents to try and sneak into first class to talk to them. She's eventually able to get there, and both DJ and Lindsay don't pay her much mind, asking what she wants. Heather tries to be chummy with them, but it doesn't work since both of them know what she's like, so Heather drops the act and bluntly tells them she would like for Team Victory to formally work together with Team Amazon. They both ask why they would do that, and Heather reminds them that Team Chris voted out Tyler, so Heather figured they might want some revenge. Lindsay thinks about it and has a confessional actually agreeing with Heather, as Heather and Lindsay even shake on it, but DJ looks a little bit worried. Owen would confide in Noah again about wanting to break up with Izzy like the original, except unlike the original where Noah agreed, Noah needs his group of 3 to stay together, because if Owen breaks up with Izzy, then it's possible that she could join Alejandro and they could cause a 2-2 tie at their next elimination. At this point in Total Drama, no one actually knows what happens in a tie, but either way I don't think Noah would want to risk it, as he tells Owen to stay with Izzy, he even lies to Owen saying he's sure they can work past it. Like the original, the plane would crash after it runs out of gas, and Owen and Izzy would still jump out of the plane together, getting injured when it lands on top of them. The only difference is that Owen would be excited with Izzy and jumping out, since he's trying to make it work like no one told him to. For the first part of the challenge where one person at a time from each team has to dive underwater to find the pirate booty, with Owen and Izzy gone, it's just Noah and Alejandro on the team. They argue about who should do the dives, and the aggression is a lot more visible now and isn't as snide anymore since they're the only 2 on the team, so they can openly, voice their dislike of each other, instead of just being passive aggressive. Alejandro eventually agrees to do all the dives, just saying that Noah's weak body wouldn't be of any use to them. For the first dive, Lindsay would go for Team Victory since DJ obviously can't swim well, and when she submerges from the water, Alejandro does at the same time, and he has a confessional noting that if Owen and Izzy potentially permanently gone from the team because of their injury, it would be wise for him to start a connection with Team Victory. So he tries to talk with Lindsay, but she just glares at him as she talks back angry at him for voting off Tyler and swims off. Alejandro curses in Spanish in the confessional, upset at the difficulties facing with Lindsay. Lindsay and Alejandro go back up, and Lindsay approaches DJ, but he still looks terrified at the water, making Lindsay comfort him saying she'll go again as she goes for a second dive. Alejandro notices this and sees DJ alone and figures he should try working on DJ if Lindsay isn't going to budge. Noah smugly cheers on Alejandro to jump again, but Alejandro decides to go for his plan and pushes Noah off the edge of the water, tagging him when he does so. Alejandro then talks with DJ asking why he looks so scared, and DJ confides in Alejandro about his fear of jumping in the water, telling the story he told on an island about belly flopping but on his butt. Alejandro uses his charm to comfort DJ about his fear and tells him everyone has something they're afraid of. DJ chuckles, saying yeah right, asking Alejandro what he could possibly be afraid of. Alejandro pauses for a bit, obviously thinking about his brother Jose, but doesn't reveal that to DJ because they aren't close enough for that, and just says that he can't. But that proves that DJ is in some way more brave than Alejandro because he can admit his fear. DJ smiles as he realizes Alejandro is right and thanks Alejandro for the help. As for the challenge, it would still end up in the same result of Gwen finding the treasure for Team Amazon, and then Alejandro swoops in last minute to take it, but then Heather takes it from Alejandro. All the stuff in the infirmary of Izzy becoming smart and being taken by the government would still happen, getting her removed from the game. Again, only a minor difference there in that Owen would be fighting for her to stay since he's trying to make them work as a couple, but Izzy just breaks it to him that they're incompatible, essentially breaking up with him. And then of course Owen's song would still happen. Owen would come back to the challenge and pair with Noah on the course, as Alejandro would ride by himself. Then DJ and Lindsay would just go as a pair for every round. DJ and Lindsay would be doing very well like DJ was originally, and Team Chris's Ha would be struggling mainly due to Noah and Owen's slow time, and Alejandro going a bit slower since he no longer has the combined weight of him and Tyler. Now at this point there's a lot to discuss about why Alejandro messed with DJ in the original, because I always thought it was to prevent Team Chris from losing, but the thing is Team Chris actually ends up winning this challenge. So if that's the case, that means that if Alejandro didn't mess with DJ, then Team Chris and Victory would end up getting first place and second place, and Team Amazon would end up voting someone out. And I fail to see any reason why that wouldn't be an appealing option to Alejandro, because the whole reason he wanted to work with DJ is because he wanted to have the numbers over at Team Amazon. And even though Chris revealed to Alejandro that he's not doing any more team switches, the next best thing after having DJ on his team to increase their numbers will be having Team Amazon lose a member, because then that makes them more evenly matched. But the thing is, after the first and second relay rounds, Team Chris does have the longest time. The only thing I can reasonably assume is that Alejandro was afraid that they were going to lose, so he messed with DJ to prevent them from losing. Now that it's been the first two rounds and Team Chris looks like they're losing again, and Alejandro obviously can't risk losing because Noah, Owen, he'd obviously get voted out, he'd mess with Team Victory again to prevent him from losing. Obviously Alejandro wouldn't be able to reveal that Irene is fake and reinstill the curse, since none of that is happening and Irene doesn't even exist here. But that doesn't mean he wouldn't be able to still sabotage Team Victory by knocking the same board out of place like the original, and then when Team Victory goes after them, they wouldn't complete the course, going off the board, making them lose like the original. And since there were only two people on Team Victory, like in Paris, they would have a tiebreaker to decide who goes home. And this tiebreaker could be literally anything, and I have no way to know what it would be. Especially since they have a limited budget right now because, you know, they crashed, they don't have any budget, so they'd have to do something kind of cheap. But given that DJ isn't trying to quit anymore, and he was able to beat Lindsay in a tiebreaker that was basically made for her, which was fashion, while not even trying, I think it's fair to say that DJ, now actually trying, could beat her in this tiebreaker since he has the overwhelming advantage in most challenge regards. Anything with physical strength he wins, probably anything with intelligence he wins. It's not impossible for Lindsay to win here, if it's something very specifically in her wheelhouse. But just for the sake of continuing the story, we're going to follow with DJ won this tiebreaker, since I just view it as a lot more likely than Lindsay doing so, meaning Lindsay would also get eliminated. Now there's another thing to talk about here, and that's lone DJ now on Team Victory. I believe he would be switched on the Team Chris for a couple of reasons. First off, the show at this point has completely run out of money, and simplifying just to two teams would save the show some money since they wouldn't have to make more resources for free teams moving forward. You know, they wouldn't need free Torture X, things like that. So it just makes sense logistically to do it there. Also, in Rent to the Island, we saw that when Anne Maria quit and had her team unfairly lose a team member, Chris made up for that by bringing the Coda in the game. And in Packet 2 Island, when he moved Max onto the other team, he also moved Sky to even the numbers out. The point is, we've seen that Chris is willing to help even out team numbers when they unfairly lose a member. And since Team Chris unfairly lost Izzy even though they didn't lose a challenge, adding DJ to their team could be a way to make up for them losing Izzy. So that plus my earlier point that it would save the show money during this time that they really need money, I do think DJ would be transferred onto Team Chris. Alejandro is ecstatic to have DJ join them as it gives him a warm welcome to the team. The episode ends with Alejandro having a confessional, sinisterly laughing while saying, "Perfect." Now I'm not gonna lie here, this aftermath is really just here for formality, nothing important changes here. The only difference is that DJ's section will be replaced by Tyler, as his way to try and get more money donated is probably with some extreme stunt that goes horribly wrong because it's Tyler. Also, Lindsay and Tyler would get to reunite, which is nice, but yeah, besides that, everything else stays the same, not much to talk about, do fundraiser, you get it. Honestly, just about everything plays out same pre-challenge. We still have the Noah, Owen, Gwen, Courtney, Sierra scenes. The only difference is I see DJ complaining about not being in first class, since Chris made the teams not go to first class because he was obviously doing stuff with Ezekiel, but he didn't tell him that. Cody would call out DJ saying he didn't even win last time because he was on Team Victory and he's just been switched over. Alejandro takes DJ's side though, saying that DJ had to defeat Lindsay in a tiebreaker, which must have been very hard for him. DJ has a confessional talking about being the last remaining member of Team Victory and how it's looking grim, but he feels good about being moved on to Team Chris, but he hates the name. Alejandro would still leave economy class not being amused by the Noah and Owen shenanigans, and gets caught by Ezekiel before the challenge even begins. And also the beginning of the challenge plays out pretty similarly. Team Amazon obviously just plays out the same, undressing the guards since they're all still here. Noah and Owen play rock, paper, scissors originally and nominate DJ during the song, and even though DJ would be hesitant, since he just joined the team, he would take one for the team to show he's not a liability. Especially since, he came from Team Victory, not exactly a good look because the team lost a lot, so he'd want to show that he's capable and that he's not a challenge liability. However, Team Chris would still fall behind since Owen would have still taken the hat to try and make Noah laugh and unintentionally hide the clue for a while, like the original. And like the original, Cody and Sierra to be taken by Zeke when they're kissing. Well, Sierra's, trying to get him to kiss, you get it. And Gwen and Courtney would bond over stretching Heather on the torture rack. Team Chris would get to the torture rack, and similar to before, DJ would volunteer himself again to prove he's helpful. Also, since he's the tallest, I imagine he would already be much more flexible than Owen and Noah. Noah says the same stuff about how Alejandro isn't trustworthy, which is the first time he's really voicing it to the team, including Owen. Both DJ and Owen are skeptical, but Noah continues trying to implant it in their minds. I don't imagine they would accidentally leave DJ like they did Tyler, since Tyler's whole gimmick was that he was easily forgettable. But it doesn't really matter if DJ gets taken or not, since Owen and Noah would still follow the clues and apprehend Jack the Ripper with or without DJ. So just for the sake of plot, I'd say that DJ would struggle a bit being the work mule and just getting stretched, so he tells Owen and Noah to continue on without him as he works out the pain from the torture rack, which allows Ezekiel to get him. And then Heather would be taken when she insists on being watch out, because yeah. And because the teams are the same here, the rest of the challenge plays out accordingly to the original. Team Chris finds Jack and takes him down, while Team Chris finds Duncan. And Chris would still stupidly give the win to the Amazons even though they didn't complete the task, but he would still give Team Chris Duncan as a consolation prize, meaning we bring him back into the game. And I have no reason to really believe this vote would play out any differently, seeing as Duncan was already voting out Noah originally before, and now that DJ is also involved with it because he trusts Alejandro a lot more, and Noah bad-talking Alejandro wasn't a good look, and then Duncan and DJ already have a good connection from Island, I really don't see a way Noah could save himself here. In a 3-2 vote, Noah is eliminated. Alejandro would grin big while watching Noah leave, as Noah still says the same thing to Owen to watch out for Alejandro. Duncan and Gwen would still have their kiss at the end of the episode, but since Tyler isn't here anymore, they would get away with it as no one walks in on them. And again, like last episode, everything pre-challenge with Team Amazon goes the same. And the scene of Owen being paranoid about losing Noah would play the same too. The only difference here is that since no one saw Gwen and Duncan kiss, there would be no tension between Duncan and anyone. And that also means that Alejandro wouldn't notice anything, therefore he wouldn't look into Duncan and Gwen. One thing I considered is if Heather would look into this now, since if you remember in the reward challenge with the boats, Heather stayed with her team, allowing her to see the exchange with Gwen being worried about Duncan, and that plus how quickly Heather sussed out Gwen when she was being suspicious in action does make a good case. However, Heather was extremely unaware of Duncan and Gwen this episode, as she didn't even have one confessional talking about them, and it would be one thing if Alejandro was the only one talking about Duncan and Gwen because of the suspicions he got from Tyler, but Sierra and even Courtney catch on to something potentially being there, and the fact that they do and Heather doesn't even mention it doesn't make me think that there's much of a case here for her to catch on to anything with Duncan and Gwen yet. For the first challenge, I have no reason to believe anything would change, with Duncan and Gwen being the volunteers to face in the challenge. The next challenge with the wrestling, same idea for Amazon since all the people are still here, which in this case is Courtney, Sierra, and then Cody, but he doesn't actually really do much, but he did nominate for this challenge, so yeah. And for Team Chris, Owen would still volunteer for this, leaving it between DJ and Alejandro to join him. Which is actually a pretty tough one to guess, since DJ is definitely a pacifist, but I think Alejandro being good friends with DJ could convince him that he doesn't have to fight the girls, he just has to kinda lay on them since he's so big. DJ remains hesitant as Alejandro sneakily rolls his eyes behind DJ's back, but continues to pump DJ up as he eventually can get DJ to agree to go in. And this fight would basically go the same as the original. DJ would take Tyler's spot of not wanting to fight a girl and being unsure of how to take her down, allowing Courtney to knock him down, but then when Courtney comments on Cody's strength, Sierra gets mad and attacks Courtney, causing them both to pass out, giving Team Chris 2 gold medals. Duncan and Gwen's song would still happen, but Alejandro wouldn't be spying on them since he has no reason to be suspicious, and even if he did, I don't think Duncan and Gwen would be alluding to anything like they were in the original, because they're worried about Tyler revealing them as a couple, because obviously Tyler never saw them, nor did anybody. And because of that, I do think the song is actually more sweet, as they both just vaguely talk about being into each other, but still an underlying fear of Courtney finding out. I don't think the song being different would change the result, as Duncan would still get attacked by the bear, and Gwen would take the opportunity to win the medal. The last challenge is hurdles, and since Alejandro and Heather are still the only two that haven't competed, they would, and it would play out the same with Heather getting a medal due to Alejandro getting overconfident. This means that the teams break even again on points, and there's a tiebreaker. Obviously Cody would go again for Team Amazon, and now with Tyler not here for Team Chris, it's pretty impossible to tell who'd go here for Team Chris. The only realistic option is Alejandro, since DJ and Owen are way too big to be able to use the rings to get up, and Duncan's been mauled by a bear so he'd be too weak to do it. but I don't think Alejandro would really want to do it since the rings look like a death trap. So Alejandro, much like the wrestling, would convince DJ to do it again, saying his long arm length could help him flap more effectively. Again, DJ is hesitant, but Alejandro encourages him to do it, and they both compete in the tiebreaker. But like I said, I think DJ is way too big and wouldn't be able to reach the top before his feathers start falling off, leaving DJ to suffer a pretty nasty fall, while Cody, like the original, gets the medal, winning the challenge for Team Amazon. With the obvious big change here is that no one knows about Duncan and Gwen, so that wouldn't be revealed. After the challenge, DJ, who's slightly injured, would approach Alejandro a little upset, asking why he kept throwing him in today, and Alejandro, being the smooth talker he is, insists that he wasn't trying to hurt DJ. He just sees so much potential in him, and as his friend, he feels like it's his job to help him reach that potential. DJ asks if he really means that, and Alejandro agrees and says as DJ's friend, he has to warn him about Owen. DJ is obviously skeptical about Owen being dangerous to any degree, but Alejandro insists that Owen and Noah were the two that voted out Tyler. And he knows how close DJ was to Lindsay, and he just wants to make sure that Owen doesn't make it to the merge because he could turn on them for taking out Noah. DJ is obviously surprised by this, but trusts Alejandro's words, and he does want to avenge Tyler for Lindsay. But none of that really matters right now since this was a non-elimination challenge. Chris is pretty weird with the words he says in this episode, saying like the vote was his call and he wanted to keep Duncan for the drama. So it is possible to now think that the vote out isn't related to any drama that someone might be eliminated. But since this was a non-elimination originally, and if I did eliminate someone now, it would make everything weird. We could have to make an elimination a non-elimination later. For the case of simplicity, this will just remain as a non-elimination. Maybe if I had more numbers than I was supposed to for the cast, then I would make this an elimination just to even everything out. But as of now, it would make everything harder, so I'm just not going to eliminate anyone here. However, since this was portrayed as an elimination vote out, Gwen would again sneak back out to the elimination ceremony, worried about Duncan being eliminated since he's new to the team. And I do think Heather would notice the sneaking out, since she's always very perceptive about head counts and things in that regard. So Heather would follow Gwen. Gwen would sigh of relief when Chris reveals it's a non-elimination, as Heather scares Gwen from behind, ever so curious why she's so relieved to see the Ever team not have to face an elimination. The tension on Team Amazon would be considerably less since no one knows about the kiss. However, the episode would start following the night before, with Heather questioning Gwen about why she attended Team Chris's elimination ceremony. Gwen is avoidant of answering, just saying it's really not Heather's business, with Heather asking if it happens to be Courtney's business then. Gwen turns around to face Heather angry, asking what she's implying, and Heather says Gwen knows exactly what Heather's implying, mentioning the sea shanty episode and how she seems very close to Duncan. Gwen does look slightly guilty, but remembering it's Heather, refuses to let herself feel bad around her, as Gwen doubts Heather, asking if she has any proof for this theory. Heather admits not yet, and Gwen leaves it at that, saying that it's just a he said she said situation, and if she wants to try and tell everyone, then they both know whose side they take. Heather gasps, saying that's such manipulative talk, and that's even low for Heather, and Gwen's like the new Heather. This comment makes Gwen seethe with anger as she walks off. Gwen has a confessional, feeling relieved that she was able to hold Heather away from the truth, but the guilt of what she is doing is really starting to take effect as she feels awful for being such a bad friend to Courtney. Heather also has a confessional afterwards, surprised by how far Gwen is taking it, and really wanting to stick it to her, but acknowledges that Gwen is right, and if Heather can't get proof on Gwen, then Gwen will probably just turn it around on Heather instead. Team Chris is also a lot more tame with not much going on, except Owen still celebrating about winning the gold medals last episode. Duncan would be adjusting to Team Chris a lot better now since there's no drama around him, and everyone on the team has a pretty good relationship with him. DJ and Alejandro whisper to each other about Owen, with Duncan overhearing their conversation, being doubtful of Owen being as bad as Alejandro says. But Alejandro remains certain, even referencing past seasons, how Owen always makes it further than you'd think because of how oblivious he looks, but reminds them of action and how Owen isn't to be trusted. It isn't exactly perfectly clear if Alejandro has seen the show, but early on he has a confessional talking about how he's much worse than Heather, which proves that he has seen past seasons, so him bringing up Owen being a mole in action is completely fair because he's probably seen that season. Duncan has a confessional doubtful of Owen being as dangerous as Alejandro implies, but does agree with Alejandro that Owen does always make it pretty far, but Duncan still isn't sure of what side to take as of now. Everything with the beginning of the challenge plays out the same. Team Amazon would find themselves in the center of a minefield after running away from a lizard, and Owen gets taken by Area 51. Obviously the song Team Amazon sings would change now since no one knows Gwen is a boyfriend kisser, but that doesn't really matter. I just imagine it'd be relating to them being in a minefield and Heather makes mini jabs at Gwen and Duncan during the song, which Courtney would notice, but besides that it's not really important. And at the end of the song, Cody would still sing to throw his candy out to clear a path. Both teams would go into Area 51 at the same time, where I think Gwen and Courtney would break up into a team, since obviously they still get on very well because the secret isn't out, but Courtney is a bit suspicious still and wants to confront Gwen about why Heather would say all those things about her in the song. Gwen is able to deflect pretty well, just saying that's classic Heather and they always seem to fight, which Courtney would agree with, but does still have an air of suspicion on her. And since Courtney's a Gwen now, Sierra would save Heather now from the portal, since Courtney wouldn't be there. And Sierra doesn't like Heather, but she doesn't want to lose a teammate, so that's the most reasonable thing I can think of. Heather, after getting saved, sees the opportunity to pull Sierra in on the secret, as Sierra has already voiced how obvious it is they like each other, but that's why it concerns her, especially since she knows that they like each other a lot, but she isn't sure if they're actually acting on it, so she doesn't want to confront Gwen or get her in trouble for something she isn't doing. Heather mentions how Gwen is stealing Courtney's boyfriend, and it's only a matter of time before she goes after yours, making Sierra freak out at the idea of Gwen taking Cody, especially since it's already common knowledge to most people that Cody has a crush on Gwen, which Sierra voices as her suspicions that Gwen's already been working her magic on him, making Sierra agree to working with Heather to get Gwen caught. Heather seems happy in a confessional, stating a crazy ally is still an ally, and Gwen will get caught if it's the last thing she does. Gwen and Duncan will still have their scene where they meet up alone, and Gwen would warn Duncan about how people are starting to get suspicious and they should probably be more careful, prompting Duncan to suddenly kiss her like the original, making Gwen happy as she forgets all her worries and runs off. Since Tyler isn't here anymore, Team Chris would actually struggle a bit finding an artifact, since originally when the team passes the area where Owen is locked, Tyler punches the wall multiple times because of course Tyler does. And this causes an alien box to fall on them. But now that he isn't here, that means they wouldn't get attacked by aliens, but that also means they wouldn't have the aliens. They wouldn't have an artifact. Instead, when DJ and Alejandro pass the box where they hear Owen, they would stop to try and figure out a way to save Owen. Alejandro insists they leave Owen behind, both because they need to find an artifact and Owen isn't trustworthy with him, obviously concealing the real reason that he just doesn't like Owen. DJ does trust Alejandro, but he's far too nice to leave Owen behind as they try to figure out how to open the door. The door had a lock pad, but there's not much to go on, so I think DJ would just start guessing the code starting from 0001 and onwards. Alejandro facepalms asking seriously, and DJ just turns around asking if he has any better ideas, causing Alejandro to kick the lock pad out of frustration, and like the original when Alejandro bumps into it, the lock pad would short circuit, making the door open. DJ and Alejandro would have a shocked reaction to Owen's makeup like the original, as DJ plays the same role of Tyler, making Owen realize he doesn't have memory loss as he can recall everything about them. It's also important to note that since Alejandro never got attacked by aliens and Duncan never came to help Alejandro wouldn't owe Duncan a favor, which doesn't matter too much since Duncan used that favor to have Alejandro vote out Tyler instead of him this episode, but since Duncan's secret isn't out, he isn't even a target, so he doesn't really need a favor, but it's just important to know that Alejandro doesn't owe Duncan anything. And again, like what I said earlier, since Tyler never knocked down the alien box to get the alien, Team Chris would still have to find an artifact. However, Team Amazon originally uses the alien box itself, so they would also have to find an artifact. But given that Team Chris spent most of their time trying to save Owen, and now that Team Amazon wouldn't have to deal with Courtney trying to throw since the secret isn't out and she wouldn't be mad to throw to vote out Gwen, I still think Team Amazon could win the challenge. I don't exactly know what artifacts could be used now. Heather found a portal pretty early on in the challenge, but I don't know how exactly they'd go about transporting that. But either way, I think Team Amazon just has more merit to be able to win here, meaning Team Chris goes to elimination. And for this vote, DJ and Alejandro are voting Owen, and Owen is voting Alejandro. The only question mark is who Duncan would vote for, but even then, I'm pretty sure he's leaning towards voting out Owen. Not only did what Alejandro say earlier make sense to Duncan, but Owen cost him the challenge pretty heavily, and even if he really wanted to vote with Owen, he could only cause a tie, which is a pretty big risk that Duncan can't really afford taking right now, especially with the Gwen secret lurking around. Besides, Alejandro and Duncan are actually pretty close for most of the season, with them only breaking up at the final 5, and that was Alejandro turning on Duncan. Duncan does have a lot of lines during the season hinting towards his distrust towards Alejandro, but he also has plenty of lines and scenes enjoying Alejandro's companies and plans. And keep in mind that that was all in the original after Alejandro prodded Tyler to reveal Duncan's secret, but now that Alejandro hasn't done that to Duncan, he would probably even be more buddy-buddy with him now than the original. Yeah, I definitely think Duncan votes of Al here, and a 3-1 vote, Owen is eliminated. And even if he does vote of Owen somehow and it's a 2-2 tie, I'm pretty sure Alejandro could beat Owen in just about any tiebreaker. Intelligence, agility, maybe like strength, but Alejandro also hypnotized Owen this episode where if he says revenge, Owen starts stopping everything he does, gives himself a wedgie and does a dance. Yeah, what a show. But the point is Alejandro could just say revenge during the tiebreaker, and then Owen has no way of beating him in the tiebreaker because he'd just be dancing. So no matter what, Owen gets eliminated here. The episode started with Courtney having a confessional, smiling and saying how she finally feels like she can trust Gwen with Duncan, since she's been watching her a lot recently and it looks like Gwen actually values their friendship, which makes Courtney happy. Courtney also voices these feelings to Gwen, apologizing to her for talking so much about Duncan lately, and how she wants to focus back on them because she likes being friends with her. Gwen again voices how the guilt of hiding this is killing her, and she's feeling worse by the day, and even starts thinking about the comment Heather made about Gwen being the new Heather. Heather and Sierra see Gwen and Courtney go off, as Heather groans with annoyance at Gwen getting away with this, as she asks Sierra if she has any plans yet to get dirt on Gwen. And Sierra is insulted that Heather thinks that Sierra doesn't already have one, telling Heather to just trust her. Heather has a confessional saying she'd have a much easier time trusting Sierra if she wasn't so mentally deranged. In this episode, we saw Alejandro getting annoyed with Team Chris's losing streak as he talks with the team to try and find ways to mess with Team Amazon. Originally, this plan involved Alejandro flirting with Courtney to mess with Courtney and Heather, but since the Gwen Duncan secret isn't out, flirting with Duncan's still girlfriend is definitely not on the table. So now a plan for Team Chris to follow becomes a lot more arbitrary, but since DJ is here and basically everyone has caught on to Heather having an interest in Alejandro, DJ just suggests that he flirts with a different girl, then Heather will be way off her game. Alejandro likes the idea, but they run through the options, and with Sierra being obsessed with Cody and Courtney being Duncan's Duncan's still girlfriend, that only leaves Gwen. Duncan tries to interject saying Gwen wouldn't be into him, and Alejandro says that might be true, but she's their only option. Besides, the plan is more about getting Heather off her game than the person Alejandro is flirting with. Duncan has a confessional, obviously upset with the plan, but doesn't want to fight on it too much since it could start to become a bit suspicious, and just decides to let it happen since he trusts Gwen to not be alerted by Alejandro. And with that, during the cafeteria scene where Alejandro originally flirts with Courtney, is now obviously doing it with Gwen. In my opinion, Gwen would probably be resistant to Alejandro's advances. We did see a little bit in All-Stars that Gwen could get slightly interested in Alejandro because of his looks, but since she's with Duncan strong and all, I don't think she would really care about Alejandro's attempt. She would, however, see how stressed it makes Heather, which makes Gwen enjoy it. The teams getting on top of the emus would go about the same since everyone from the original is still here, with the only exception being DJ, but I don't think he would have much difficulty since we've seen DJ naturally gets along with animals, minus the animal curse, but that isn't happening now so we don't really have to factor that. With Alejandro's recent support to make DJ try harder, DJ wouldn't struggle too much getting an emu. Alejandro would flirt with Gwen again by getting her an emu like he originally did for Courtney, and again Gwen wouldn't be interested, but she would see Heather watching from the corner of her eye, and goes along with Alejandro's flirting by taking the emu and thanking him to make Heather jealous. This also ends up making Duncan feel a bit weirded out watching Gwen take an emu from another guy, as he's already starting to heavily dislike Alejandro for this plan. Another thing to know of Cody and Duncan is Cody wouldn't be provoking Duncan anymore in this episode since he originally did that out of jealousy from Duncan stealing Gwen, but since that isn't common knowledge yet, Cody wouldn't know and wouldn't provoke Duncan. Heather would approach Gwen while riding the emus, asking what that was with Alejandro back there, and Gwen asks why she seems so bent about it, and Heather falls back on that she shouldn't be talking to the enemy team, but Gwen notes that she was just taking a free emu and she'd be stupid not to. Heather realizes that's a good point, but tells Gwen to watch it. With her already stealing Duncan, she really shouldn't be trying to take more men. Gwen asks if Heather considers that maybe she's trying to show Heather how paranoid she is, since just talking to Alejandro is enough to make her think she's flirting with him, just like watching Team Chris's elimination is enough to make her think she's interested in Duncan, and tells Heather to get a grip on reality while riding off. Heather has a confessional completely stunned and tries to muster up a point, but just stops and says maybe she's wrong. Gwen has a confessional still feeling guilty about doing this, but asks if anyone can really blame her for not wanting Heather to know about this, and it's not like Heather hasn't done worse, but she does feel bad for Courtney. During the 2-day ride, Duncan approaches Gwen asking what was going on between her and Alejandro, and Gwen acknowledges it, saying she was just playing along to make Heather annoyed, but there's nothing there, telling Duncan he's the only guy she's got her eyes on right now. Duncan agrees, saying she's the only gal he's got his eyes for too, while getting close to her. Gwen is smiling, but suddenly stops and looks off avoidantly. Duncan notices this and asks her what is that about, and Gwen says she's been thinking and she knows things between him and Courtney are complicated, but Gwen refuses to keep dating him while him and Courtney are still together, and demands that Duncan breaks up with Courtney before they continue dating, since this isn't fair to her. Duncan seems annoyed but understands where Gwen's coming from, saying he'll try for her while giving her a kiss on the cheek before riding off. But when this happens, Cody notices from behind as his jaw drops in complete shock. I mostly base that happening off the fact that Cody and Duncan had a scene in the original, so that tells me they would be at about the same place here. Cody has a confessional similar to the original when he finds out, being completely stunned at Gwen being with Duncan. Now, with Team Chris not having Owen, DJ doing decently enough, and them only having to get 3 people to Chris, I imagine that they would get to Chris first and win the Clippers. Not that it's really important, but I think Heather would be flirting with DJ now like she originally did with Duncan to make Alejandro jealous because he was making her jealous, but since Duncan is still technically with Courtney, that's not really an option to make them jealous like that. And since DJ knows the plan and knows Heather's just doing this to get back at Alejandro, he doesn't pay it much mind. After DJ gives Heather a brush off and she doesn't catch Alejandro staring, Heather starts to actually think that Gwen was right and she was looking into nothing, as she even feels embarrassed but gets refocused on winning the challenge, as she realizes without Gwen being a target, Heather would be the obvious vote out. Sierra, being as obsessive with Cody as she is, would notice something is off with Cody, as he seems very scared and down. Cody refuses anything being wrong, but Sierra, being obsessed as she is with Cody, would obviously know that's a lie and continue prodding him during the challenge and song. I also think since she's so hyper-focused on trying to get Cody to fess up, she wouldn't accidentally jump off the cliff without the cord on her ankle now, meaning she wouldn't get injured and removed. As for the challenge, I think Team Chris wins pretty easily now that they have the Clippers, and they can start a lot earlier since they don't have to wait for Owen. Team Amazon does have Sierra here now long-term to help, but it's important to know that Team Amazon wasn't very good at grabbing sheeps while bungee jumping, with the only exception being Cody, but now that Cody is frazzled by the Gwen, Duncan Chris, I think he'd be too out of it to do very well either. So even if Sierra is good, I don't think it's enough for Team Amazon to really have a chance. I do think Heather would become a bit of a workhorse, working really hard to stay in the challenge, but still occasionally gets thrown out by Alejandro flirting with Gwen. Gwen continues accepting Alejandro's flirting to make Heather annoyed, but also to incentivize Duncan to break up with Courtney sooner, since she knows Duncan gets jealous seeing her with Alejandro. Courtney even has a girl talk with Gwen about what's going on with her and Alejandro, saying he's a good catch, as Gwen awkwardly agrees. Cody would have a troubled look on his face as he watches Gwen accepting Alejandro's advances, and with the stimulation overload of watching Gwen flirt with another guy and Sierra still pressuring him to spit it out, Cody would blurt out that he saw Duncan kiss Gwen. This causes everyone to go silent as Courtney becomes enraged and shocked, yelling at Gwen for being a betrayer. Heather also stops shearing the sheep as she also gets up mad. Gwen tries to explain herself to Courtney, but Heather cuts her off, being completely enraged that Gwen kept lying to her, and does take a second to say she's kind of impressed, but is still so annoyed of her. Duncan gets back up from his turn on the bungee cord, and Courtney confronts him just as angry, asking how he could do that to her. Duncan is shocked that the secret has come out and starts to talk, but before he can, DJ gets involved. Since him being the big sweetheart he is, he hates that Duncan would treat women like that, even being more annoyed and upset than Courtney. Courtney says she appreciates the support, but this is kind of a personal fight, as DJ says understood while walking off angry. Duncan continues explaining, starting with as I was saying, but Courtney quickly punches him across the face, calling him a cheater and breaking down into tears. Chris and Chef even exchange looks at each other, uncomfortable with all the drama, but during all this chaos, Alejandro uses the clippers to reveal his team sheep, as Chris proclaims Team Chris the winners. Courtney glares at Gwen, saying this should be a fun vote-off, as Heather sidesteps past Gwen, saying agreed. And in the vote-off, obviously Gwen is eliminated. It is possible maybe Cody could still vote with Gwen because of his crush, but even then that's not enough, and also he probably would vote for Sierra because that's kind of his gimmick, he votes for Sierra every time. So in a 3-2 vote, or a 4-1 vote, or if Cody does vote for Sierra, a 3-1-1 vote, doesn't matter. Gwen is eliminated. Gwen tries to apologize to Courtney again before jumping out, but Courtney just glares at Gwen, saying she should jump out before Courtney throws her out. Gwen sighs and jumps out of the plane. Tensions on Team Chris would be high as DJ confronts Duncan about cheating on Courtney. Duncan admits it was wrong, but asks if he can blame him considering how crazy Courtney is, and Duncan says yes he can because it's always wrong to cheat, and if he wanted to be with Gwen, then he should have communicated that if Courtney had broken up with her beforehand, even if it's hard. DJ walks off disappointed as Alejandro catches up to him and agrees that what Duncan did was wrong, and if they should find themselves at a vote, they must agree to vote for him. And DJ agrees, saying you have my vote. Alejandro has a confessional saying he could care less about what Duncan did, but he's very glad it got out. DJ is agreeing to vote out Duncan next if they lose, and Team Amazon is in shatters, all thanks to Duncan. Duncan has a confessional completely bummed about losing Gwen and the secret getting out, as he's saying everything's going to remission now and he's going to have to work really hard to stay in the game. Team Amazon is in loser class, very broken. Courtney is suffering through the recent breakup and cheating, and Cody is missing Gwen. Heather would notice the despair on the team and try to make sure that Courtney doesn't drag down the team, and talks to her one-on-one and tries to redirect her sadness into anger against Duncan, which works very well. And like the original, Sierra is excited about Gwen being gone, seeing Cody can now find his true love, her, but obviously it doesn't work out like that. The beginning part of the challenge with the teams making the boats would play out the same. I don't think Heather and Courtney would fight anymore since Courtney is being more receptive of working as a team so they can beat Duncan, but Cody would still pretty quickly see the building supplies and make Gwen's face while no one stops him, causing Courtney to go nuts and chase him with a sledgehammer, while Sierra steps in to protect him. Owen isn't on Team Chris to make the connection of the pieces looking like ribs, which is originally what clues Alejandro on it being a boat, but I don't know what they would try to make instead since it's too subjective. And since this is a reward challenge and doesn't really matter anyways, for sake of simplicity, I'm just going to say they still make a boat. And on that note, this challenge remains mostly the same. Owen isn't here to break the ice anymore with his ass, but Chris tells the team to bring their boats to open water anyway, so I imagine the challenge would still be the same, just not with the same abruptness to get on the boats. When Team Chris gets to Chef, they would probably both nominate DJ as captains. Both Duncan and Alejandro are trying to get in his good graces, much like Owen because they both need his vote, if they were to lose. And Team Amazon still chooses Cody because Courtney and Heather would fight about it. Maybe it'd be Heather now because of what I said earlier about Courtney being more of a team player, but it doesn't really matter, it's a hat. While Alejandro and Duncan are trying to bad talk each other, Alejandro would mention the Courtney stuff a lot, eventually making DJ feel mad as he demands that they turn around the ship. Both of them are confused why they would do that, but DJ demands that they go back so Duncan can apologize to Courtney now. Alejandro tries to talk sense into DJ, but DJ puts his foot down demanding they listen to their captain, and both of them not wanting to lose his vote agree and head the ship backwards. Before they can get close enough to have Duncan apologize, Courtney would take the chance to shoot the cannonballs at Team Chris, making them retaliate. The scenes with the cannonballs all go about the same, near shots, some hitting ships, Sierra jumping in front of one for Cody. The only difference is DJ would be trying to defuse the fighting from both sides as happening, but he just wanted Duncan to say an apology. Owen isn't here to accidentally shoot the mast off of Team Chris's boat, that wouldn't happen. However, because this is a reward challenge and just feels more thematic, I'm just going to say that Team Amazon shoots off Team Chris's mast, and Team Amazon makes it to the flag first, meaning they win the challenge. Team Chris would be at the elimination ceremony, where Chris reveals as a non-elimination, with Duncan grinning at Alejandro and DJ, where the latter two share worried glances at each other. Again, like the other Aftermath, this is really just here as a formality. Everything plays out the same here, even more so since the 5 that competed in the return challenge are all still eliminated. I mean, there's probably going to be some different stuff, Lindsay talking about DJ being the last member of Team Victory and her really wanting to win to come back and help him because, she sees him getting used by Alejandro and it reminds her of how she gets used by Heather. She doesn't come back anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of like a mini plot showing the Team Victory connections. Either way, this results in Blaney getting added back into the mix. And with that, we're at the merge. The episode begins with the cast being center of the plane with swan boats that are heading toward the waterfall. Nothing really changes here. Sierra would still go crazy when Cody offers a kiss if he survives, and instead of throwing Owen, she would throw DJ at the other boat to connect them, and then end up swimming everyone back to shore, saving them. The cast still gets taken to the casino concert hall, where Blaney sings her song and officially joins the cast, as Chris also announces the merge. Sierra would still use the slot machine first and land on Alejandro, and repeatedly shut the door on him, upset about not getting Cody, causing Heather to take him just to shut her up, making them a pair like the original. Blaney would use the slot machine next, and because DJ is essentially taking Owen's spot here, she would get DJ. She'd have about the same reaction as she did to Owen, thinking that DJ's likability factor could be a big boost to her own likability. DJ wouldn't really know what to make of Blaney since they've never really met before, but he usually tries to see the good in people, so he'd be open to giving them as a duo a chance. And the other two pairs would play out the same as the original, with Courtney getting Duncan, leaving Sierra with Cody. Courtney would obviously be annoyed like the original, but given the breakup still happened fairly recently, she would also have a lot of aggression, still making Duncan scared. And because of this, during the part where Duncan is guiding Courtney to her dress, I don't think he would mess with her anymore in fear of making her go crazy. Also, he really needs invincibility now because people are still mad at him about the Gwen stuff because that happened pretty recently. I do imagine DJ would be a better guide than Owen, seeing as he's smarter, and he would lead Blaney without any hitches to the dress. And the Heather Alejandro and Sierra Cody duos would do the same at the wedding dress guiding part because there's no reason for that to change. Heather and Alejandro would still follow the tightrope, the only difference being that because Owen isn't here, it's a little unclear who Alejandro would be targeting, as he primarily targeted Owen in this episode, telling everyone to vote for him. And I think the most likely option is probably Duncan, since DJ, his good ally, is already probably voting Duncan because he's still mad about the cheating. Also, Duncan isn't really as much of an ally to Alejandro like he was originally, because they mostly became allies due to the Alejandro flirting with Courtney plan which they worked together on. But now that that never happened and he did it with Gwen instead, which made Duncan very mad, I think Alejandro would view Duncan as a threat to his game and more importantly, an easy vote. Heather, however, would push for Courtney to be voted out like the original, because even though Courtney and Alejandro aren't flirting anymore, I think Heather would be intimidated by Courtney's raw strength and anger at Duncan right now. Since as we saw in action, she can become very strong when she's unhinged like this. And the fighting of who they should vote for like the original causes Alejandro to quote-unquote fall. DJ would be scared to cross the tightropes for obvious reasons, he's a big scaredy cat, but Blaney becomes more firm with DJ, telling him to stop being afraid, instead of looking down, just look at her and focus on her. This eases DJ as he listens to her and looks at Blaney as he crosses. DJ would have a confessional saying not to judge him, but she's an older woman that's firm, and that reminds him an awful lot of his mama. He's not proud of it, it's just the way it's playing out. And ends the confessional with a quiet, sorry mama. DJ continues walking across the tightrope carrying Blaney, occasionally getting scared, but Blaney gets him back on track, making sure he doesn't get nervous. DJ appreciates the help and thanks her, saying she kinda reminds him of his, but Blaney finishes his sentence saying mom. DJ is surprised, asking Blaney how she knows about that, and she tells him that she was on the Aftermath and Celebrity Manhunt show, so she knows a lot about the contestants, including his interesting relationship for a teenager and his mother. Blaney follows up, saying if he wants her to be his in-competition mother, then she's fine with that, as long as it means that they are working together. DJ nods his head, saying of course, and he really appreciates the support. Blaney is happy to see DJ taking to her offer of an alliance, as she says then as his mom, it's important for her to warn him about Alejandro. DJ turns his head confused and even stops walking as he asks her to elaborate, and Blaney tells him about how Alejandro is using him, and even the stuff pre-merge about what he did to the girls on Team Victory, Bridget, Lashana, and costing Team Victory the challenge in Jamaica, also getting rid of Lindsay. DJ can't believe it as he insists they're friends, but Blaney reminds him of the times Alejandro used him to avoid doing work, telling him to really think if that was for him or for Alejandro. DJ starts to think about it more and gets dizzy, making him teeter-totter on the tightrope, making Blaney let off a little so he doesn't fall, telling DJ to focus back on her, and he doesn't have to agree with her right now, but he should at least think about it. Sierra and Cody have to go back after getting the questions wrong and run into Blaney and DJ, and like Blaney and Owen originally, Blaney would provoke Sierra, causing them to fight, and all four of them to fall off. And then Duncan and Courtney would cross and answer all the questions like the original, winning invincibility. Even though this is mostly the same cast with the same winners for the challenge, this vote is actually really difficult to tell now, since in this world, Courtney and Duncan were the main targets for votes, but now they're both immune. This also means that Alejandro's campaigning against Duncan would have kinda gone down the gutter, but there are a couple things to note for this vote. First off, Sierra and Heather both got 2 votes in the original. Now we know Heather, Alejandro, Duncan, and Sierra were all part of the Owen vote in the original, meaning Courtney, Blaney, Cody, and Owen were part of the votes that were for Sierra and Heather. Courtney voted Heather because she was jealous of her chemistry with Alejandro, Cody voted Sierra because Adoy, but Owen and Blaney's votes are a bit harder to tell as they could have really leaned either way, but I don't really see a reason why Owen would vote for Sierra, and him voting for Heather just makes much more sense in my mind. Meaning Blaney originally voted for Sierra, and this can only be assumed that she did this because of how impressive Sierra showed herself in the challenge and because they had a fight. Now the other original votes don't matter, since Courtney isn't crushing on Alejandro anymore, so she wouldn't be mad at Heather, and Owen obviously just isn't here. But I think in this world, Blaney would still have a very good / the same reason to vote for Sierra. It could be a bit more Alejandro because of what she said to DJ, but I think she figures it's too early and DJ still remains pretty unconvinced, but she could easily get DJ to agree with Sierra since she's a big threat and there's no ties there. And with that, DJ could also get Alejandro because they're an alliance. Alejandro would be a little shocked at seeing DJ decide to vote, as he's never really done that before, but seeing as no one else is really an appealing option to vote for Alejandro, he would agree with DJ. And Cody always votes for Sierra, so that's 4 votes. And I don't think the other 4 could agree on a vote together since they're very fractured. Duncan probably leans Alejandro because of what I said earlier of them not being nearly as buddy-buddy like the original. Courtney could be anyone. Maybe Cody because she's still mad at him for voting with Gwen. Maybe Blaney because she doesn't like that she got to come back. Maybe even also Sierra because she sees the strategic value in voting her out given her threat level. Probably not because that requires logical thinking, which Courtney is lacking in due to her angry state at Duncan. Probably Blaney seems the most likely, but again, kind of a toss-up. Heather, no real clue, just like Courtney. It's either Blaney or Sierra for similar reasons to Courtney, and it's even possible that Alejandro brings Heather on the vote because they're pretty close, and I see no reason why Heather would have an issue voting off Sierra. I mean, they are kind of like together, but Sierra's nutty and she's crazy strong. There's not much incentive for Heather to really keep her around. And as for Sierra, she probably does Blaney because of their fight, but definitely not enough to save her. So that's a 4 vote on Sierra, which given whatever vote split happens with the other 4, makes it enough and Sierra is eliminated. Sierra is bummed, but she gotta kiss Cody and even marry him in this episode, so she leaves content saying she gotta do it all, as Heather asks if that's really it all, and Sierra eagerly nods her head yes while taking the parachute and jumping out, with Cody having a big sigh of relief. Pre-challenge stuff with Duncan and Courtney would play out the same in first class, with Courtney throwing Duncan into a wedding cake when he tries to play nice. Now, because Blaney doesn't need an alliance because she's already with DJ, I don't see her going to the cockpit to announce to the plane of her alliance offer, meaning she wouldn't talk to Chef and make an alliance with him. Cody would be celebrating in economy class that Sierra is gone, and he finally has his privacy. Even having a confessional, happy that no one is knocking on the door or asking him what he's doing in there. Alejandro tells Cody it was no problem to help him deal with his marriage, and it's good to see him as a free man. DJ adds on saying he usually tries to give the benefit of the doubt, but Sierra was a lot to handle, so he's glad that Cody can play by himself now. Cody's grin fades as he has another confessional worried about DJ's words, realizing that he is actually all on his own now, and even though Sierra was smothering him, it was nice to know that he had at least one person indefinitely on his side. But now the paranoia is getting to him as he feels like everyone is against him, even panicking at the silence of no one at the door. Heather talks with the rest of the economy class people, telling them they should all agree that Courtney or Duncan goes next since their drama is affecting everyone. DJ agrees saying what Duncan did to Courtney was awful, and he's gone. Alejandro firmly agrees, while Heather interjects saying Courtney has to go first because if Duncan goes, then Courtney won't have an outlet for her rage, and that will come out in the challenges, leaving them no opportunity to vote her out. Blaney agrees, saying she saw what Courtney was like in action, and she can only imagine how dangerous Courtney is now. This causes a fight between the 4 as Cody comes back from the confessional, and they ask him to be the deciding vote, asking who they should vote out next between Duncan and Courtney. And given Cody's clear jealousy of Duncan in the show, I think he would say they should get rid of Duncan next. This makes Heather and Blaney mad, feeling like they're being ignored, and given both their stubbornness, I think they would both storm off rather than agree with the group, making Alejandro worried, and this also makes Cody gulp, feeling like he's made more enemies, which doesn't help with his previous feelings of having no allies. Alejandro has a confessional thinking about what Heather said and getting a big smile on his face. First part of the challenge will be semi-explained by Chris as people run up to the Raw to get to their transportation vehicles. Alejandro got to the top first originally and got to the bike and skateboard first, and originally he offered the bike up to Duncan to keep his loyalty, but they aren't friends in this timeline, so he would keep it from Duncan stealing it away. Duncan doesn't really care as he doesn't want to waste his time, so he grabs the other bike, which is a low-wheeler that Courtney originally used. DJ would walk up to Alejandro thinking the bike he's keeping is for him, but Alejandro walks past him and offers the bike to Courtney. Courtney asks what the catch is, but Alejandro insists that there is none and he's simply been pondering what Duncan has done to her, and he can't believe the brashness of him and it feels it's only fair he gives Courtney a good chance to beat him in the challenge. Courtney blushes while thanking him and taking the bike, while Alejandro takes the skateboard himself to catch up to Courtney. DJ slouches over upset at Alejandro not saving anything for him, as Blaney calls DJ over to the cart, telling DJ she told him so, and that Alejandro is only looking out for himself. DJ tries to rationalize what he did, talking about pacifying Courtney, but Blaney cuts him off saying that if he really cared he would have saved one for Courtney and another for you. DJ asks where the transportation device she saved for him is then, and she points at the cart telling him to pull her. DJ is insulted, asking how this isn't her using him, and Blaney admits that it is, but just says that's the way the alliances go. He'll help her through the first part, and then Blaney will gladly pay back the favor in the next part. They are stronger as a team, which means working together. DJ is still hesitant, but when he asks Blaney to promise and she does, DJ grabs the cart handle and starts running. Heather and Cody are at the back of the pack, and given Cody's earlier feelings of worry that he created an enemy in Heather, he'd probably want to help her out a bit to maybe even potentially make her his ally. Cody would walk up to Heather with the pogo stick and mule, asking her to take her pick. Heather is insulted by the option, saying she'll find something better, but Cody points out everything is taken except the sandals that Heather originally had. So Heather would accept Cody's offer, and I imagine she would probably lean more towards the pogo stick, as the mule was pretty gross looking and didn't even look that fast. And with that, she would ride off ahead, leaving Cody behind as he tries to talk to her. Everything up in front of Duncan, Courtney, and Alejandro would play out generally the same, just like in a different way. This time I think Courtney and Alejandro would be the front runners because we saw that the lowrider that Courtney had that now Duncan has was a bit slower than the bike and Alejandro on the skateboard. Duncan is able to keep up with them for a while due to his early lead, but his front wheel ends up getting stuck in a crack like it originally did for Courtney, forcing Duncan to stop and free it. This makes Courtney fawn over Alejandro, appreciating him more for helping her out so much, as Alejandro, like when he originally flirts with Courtney, plays it up, saying such beauty deserves all the help he can offer. Now because Alejandro is helping out Courtney, I imagine that he would keep an eye out for her and prevent her from hitting the landmine she originally does that launches her off the course. Cody is able to eventually get his mule moving like the original by kicking his side, letting Cody catch up to Heather where he tries to talk to her again. She's very annoyed and asks what he wants because she's kinda busy right now, and Cody apologizes for disagreeing with her and Blaney earlier, but he thinks they should work together. Heather laughs, asking why she would do that, and Cody tells her that he's kinda been on edge ever since Sierra left, so it'd be nice to know if someone has his back. Besides, it isn't like Heather has a ton of options for allies, which Heather begrudgingly agrees with. Heather asks if he's on board voting out Courtney then, to which Cody says he has something better in mind, mentioning the trio DJ, Blaney, and Alejandro, saying one of them has to go. Cody says Blaney doesn't seem like much of a threat, and DJ's too nice to worry about, and this train of thought makes Heather get a sad look on her face, as Cody says that only leaves Alejandro. Heather is obviously avoidant to voting out Alejandro, and says that Courtney is priority number one. And Cody tells her that she's being stubborn, and Courtney is hardly a threat of Alejandro around keeping her calm by flirting. Heather gets mad at the mention of Alejandro and Courtney, but then notes that if that's the case, then they shouldn't vote out Alejandro, otherwise she'll just get mad again, and Cody agrees, saying that's actually a fair point. So he makes a deal with Heather that he'll vote Courtney with her, but if Courtney wins invincibility, then she has to agree to vote Alejandro, which Heather agrees with, shaking his hand, saying it's nice doing business with you dweeb, and riding off on her pogo stick. And with this, I think everyone would be able to cross the finish line in the first part. Alejandro and Courtney is what I mentioned earlier of Alejandro looking out for Courtney. Duncan would be delayed by his wheel getting stuck, but not enough to not cross the finish line. I don't think DJ would be able to pull Blaney over the finish line first like Chef did originally for her, but I do think he's strong enough to get them over before the time's up. However, Blaney would be annoyed with DJ at their placement, telling him he has to try harder, prompting a glare from DJ as he has a confessional saying she's definitely a couple sizes up from what she told him, and she better help him out a lot in the next part to make up for it. Then Cody with the mule would obviously still make it, and given that Heather made it with the shoes originally, I think she could do it with a pogo stick. For the first meal, which was mule meat, I actually think 3 people get eliminated here, since Alejandro said he's terrible at eating challenges, and now if Courtney actually competing, he wouldn't be able to use her, so he would throw up as simply the idea of eating it. He would have a confessional bragging about how he's still going through on his concealing his threat level at the marriage plan, but throws up in a bucket, clearly showing it wasn't an act. And Cody, we just saw in the original, wouldn't eat the donkey meat because of his attachment to the donkey he rode in the first part. Blaney also wouldn't be cheating with Chef's help anymore, but this really isn't that bad of a meal, so I think she'd be able to finish it. But DJ, we saw on Island, had an aversion to eating meat of animals he likes, and I imagine that horses would probably fall into that group. DJ would try to get help from Blaney, but she would just brush him off, saying there's nothing she can do because he has to eat it, leaving him to fail and get eliminated. I imagine if this was the real show, they would have had a meal before the donkey, so DJ and Alejandro could be eliminated in the first round, and then Cody would be eliminated with this meal, just so the eliminations get spread out a bit, but that doesn't really matter, it's just a little weird to have 3 eliminations in one round. The next meal, which was earthworms, would be brought out, and like the original, Heather would be eliminated. Blaney would struggle, but we've seen her eat worse on the aftermath, so I think she could stomach it. The next meal, which was dried starfish, would come out, and I don't think Blaney could stomach this one on top of the other meal she just had, meaning she'd get eliminated. Duncan struggled with this meal a bit, but he didn't throw up, and the only reason he got eliminated is because he came in last. But with Blaney struggling so much more than him, I think he'd be able to finish it, especially since he feels like he's still on the outs and would need this win. This leaves a showdown between Courtney and Duncan in the final round, which given Courtney's track record of eating all the food and saying she has a very strong stomach, I do think she'd be able to beat Duncan and win invincibility. After the challenge, Heather would confront Alejandro about what's going on with him and Courtney, to which Alejandro says he thought that she would be happy about this since this resolves the issue of Courtney releasing all her anger after Duncan is voted out, since she's too infatuated with him now. This scene ends up playing very similarly to the way Heather originally confronted Alejandro about flirting with Courtney in Sweet and Sour, where she asks if flirting is considered strategy now, to which Alejandro says it is, but only for Courtney, and reassures Heather that she's the only woman he wants to look at. So for the vote, right off the bat, Courtney, Alejandro, and DJ would all be confirmed voting Duncan. I don't see a way anyone could convince any of them otherwise. As much as it would pain Cody since he doesn't like him, Cody would bite the bullet and talk to Duncan about the Alejandro vote with Heather, as they all agree to lean that way. However, Heather seems a little resistant. but they do realize that they're just free and they need one more vote to make it happen. And looking at the other four, I think Blanley is the only one they could convince, since DJ and Courtney are really close with Alejandro, and obviously Alejandro isn't voting Alejandro. DJ would talk to Blanley after the challenge and ask if they're good to vote Duncan, since he knows she was hesitant to, but now that Courtney has won invincibility, they should agree it's their best option. Besides, she owes this to him for not paying back the favor in the challenge, and Blanley would agree with DJ, saying she's all good on the plan to vote Duncan, while DJ walks off reassured. Shortly after this, Cody would walk up to Blanley asking if she has a second, to which Blanley would excitedly hear out his plan. And given that Blanley wanted to take out Alejandro before, and now if she were to take out Alejandro, DJ would firmly be cemented on her side, Blanley, I imagine, would also vote Alejandro, meaning in a 4-3 vote, Duncan is eliminated. Even though I do think Blanley would vote Alejandro, I think Heather would actually flip, given that she obviously, even though she doesn't want to admit it, she obviously has a crush on Alejandro. We saw in the original she had a lot of hesitancies to voting him out, even in the final 4 when she actually did it. And now that he's essentially just confessed that he only has eyes for her, I think it's a done deal. Plus, now that he hasn't been threatening in the last 2 challenges and has pacified Courtney, Heather would use those to rationalize to herself that this is for gameplay and not for love, so that gives her an easy out to follow through on. Courtney would be extremely happy and cocky about Duncan leaving, as Duncan is rather neutral, not caring anymore, just saying get me out of this plane while jumping out. Cody is completely shocked at the vote, asking Blanley why she would say she's voting for him if she didn't, and Blanley is shocked, but she has to keep her cover in front of everybody because she wouldn't want DJ and Alejandro to know that she voted Alejandro, so she takes credit for voting Duncan, saying she had to keep it exciting for Cody. Heather also plays along, not wanting Cody to know she switched, acting annoyed at Blanley doing this, but Cody glares at Heather, seemingly not buying it. Courtney would be given the option to take someone to first class with her, and given his obvious flirting and interest in her, Courtney would take Alejandro. A fair amount of changes happened pre-challenge. Courtney and Alejandro in first class doesn't have much to talk about. I just think they'd be celebrating that Duncan is finally gone, with Courtney even starting to reciprocate flirting towards Alejandro, which makes them feel good about his plan worked, and Courtney has never seemed less involved in the game. However, he would have a confessional voicing his concern of getting votes last night, as he says it's imperative that he wins invincibility today, just so he can feel a bit more safe. As for the people in economy class, I definitely think it's tense here. Cody would confront Heather about voting for Duncan, to which Heather would obviously deny, insisting it was Blanley. DJ overhears this conversation, asking if Heather really voted for Duncan, since if that was true, that means that Blanley must have voted for Alejandro. But Blanley quickly stops that train of thought, agreeing with Heather's story, saying she tricked Cody, and now he's just coming up with lies, as Heather piggybacks off this, telling Cody to back off her. Cody just shakes his head annoyed and walks to the bathroom mumbling whatever. DJ confronts Blanley about the vote, and Blanley tells him to please trust her, and she promises that she's on his side. DJ has a hard time believing her given the weird vibes of everything lately, but decides to trust her word since he doesn't have any solid proof against her, and wants to trust his ally. The first part of the challenge involves the cast one at a time running across to grab plums and then take them back, while having soccer balls kicked at them from the other contestants, then using a cricket bat as a bat to break gourds open. The initial part of grabbing the plums doesn't really matter, because even originally people who didn't come back with plums still had ammo for the next part, but to cover it for a few new people here, DJ I imagine would do fairly well, since I do imagine he's played some sort of sports just given how fit he is. Cody would probably get pummeled. Maybe he thinks of a clever technique to get by, because we've seen he can be pretty innovative, but given his firing squad includes Alejandro and DJ, he doesn't really stand much of a chance. Blanley Stamer's kind of story as Cody. She is seen somewhat physical in China by knocking Heather down, but again with the firing squad of Alejandro, she's pretty screwed since he was really good. Courtney would make it pass unscathed since she's pretty physical, and Alejandro wouldn't try to hit her since that would obviously make her mad, and he's flirting with her, so that would mess up his plan. But again, none of that really matters. The only thing that does matter is who can break their gourds in the next part. Heather would still break her gourd first, getting the advantage. Alejandro would still be able to break open his gourd. DJ would probably break his gourd, as would Courtney. Blanley is possible, but probably not. I don't imagine her training would have accounted for baseball, and I don't really think she seems like the sporty type. And Cody doesn't really stand a chance. He's not the sporty type at all. This means that Heather would get 6 trink balls for breaking her gourd first. Alejandro, Courtney, and DJ would get 3 trank balls for breaking their gourds, and Blanley and Cody would both get a measly 1 trank ball with no slingshot for failing to break the gourds open. Since Blanley never revealed to Chris that Ezekiel's still living in the plane, Ezekiel obviously couldn't be used to hunt down in this challenge, and I instead decided that the task would be to find and tranquilize a lion since they are big, dangerous, native creatures, so it seems like something Chris would find amusing for the cast to hunt down. For the beginning of the challenge, I think the cast would break off into teams of 2, Alejandro and Courtney, DJ and Blanley, and Heather and Cody, which Cody would be reluctant to since he's still mad at Heather for lying, but given that he has no slingshot, he would need someone who does, and Heather is trying to make it up to him for betraying him since she still does want him as an ally because, like Cody said, she really doesn't have that many options. Cody and Heather would go the way Cody and Sierra originally do, Alejandro and Courtney would go the way Alejandro and Duncan originally do, and DJ and Blanley would go the way Heather originally does. This means that Alejandro and Courtney would rock in the quicksand like him and Duncan do originally, except this time it's caused by them stopping to argue as Courtney asks what's up between him and Heather, to which Alejandro tries to calm her down, but it's too late as they're already starting to sink, and they both divert their attention to that. Heather and Cody would still be arguing as Heather tries to defend herself, asking why she would possibly agree to a deal with Cody about the vote, and then switch out last second. Cody turns around saying he has no idea, showing he isn't buying it, and continues walking forward but accidentally bumps into a rhino, making Heather and Cody run away. Blaney and DJ would run into the same lion Heather originally finds, but since Blaney doesn't have a slingshot, they would have to rely on DJ to make the shot, and given his scaredy cat nature he has, I think he would panic and miss the shot, causing the lion to run off when he gets a whiff of the tranquilizing agent on the ground. Blaney gets annoyed with DJ, but before they have time to argue, they hear Heather and Cody arguing in a tree about how he walked into the rhino. Blaney and DJ sneak up to them in a bush, and Blaney gets an idea saying she'll go with them and maybe she can get their votes. DJ says that's a good idea and he'll come with, but Blaney tells him to go find Alejandro and Courtney instead, saying right now they should play both sides to keep their options open. Blaney also takes DJ's slingshot, to which DJ protests, but Blaney insists that he isn't a good shot anyways and it would be better placed in her hands. And before DJ can protest more, she walks off, making DJ walk off too. Blaney asks Heather and Cody why they're hiding up in a tree, as they both answer they're hiding from a rhino. Blaney steps around saying it seems perfectly safe from where she is, so maybe they should stop being babies and come down. And they both do, asking what she wants. Blaney says her and DJ have been thinking about turning on Alejandro and Courtney as they both are good at the game. And Cody asks if DJ is aware he's been thinking about this, implying that Blaney is just speaking for him. To which Blaney sarcastically says ha ha, but notes that DJ is starting to see the light of how Alejandro is cheating him and wants him gone. Cody says there's no way he's working with Heather on a vote against Alejandro, as she'll just blow it off again like last time, causing Heather and Cody to resume their arguing, making Blaney groan in annoyance. DJ would come up on Alejandro and Courtney in the quicksand and pulls them out, saving them. Courtney asks where his slingshot went, to which DJ replies that there were different ideas on how to delegate it, which Alejandro says Blaney must have stolen it then, and tells DJ she's a bad influence and is using him, to which DJ vaguely says he's been thinking about that a lot, since he's actually been thinking about Alejandro, but he's not saying that to Alejandro. Like the original, the two groups would hear each other and sync their lines, going all into trank ball shots, causing everyone to fall asleep and wake up groggy as they sing. Once they become more awake, Alejandro notes Blaney's slingshot and demands that she gives DJ his slingshot back, saying he earned it fairly. Courtney takes Alejandro's side, telling her to hand it over, and Blaney tries to reason why she has it, but Courtney just ends up tackling her to the ground for the slingshot. Heather and Cody walk off continuing in the challenge, causing Alejandro to pull DJ away, saying they're going to be fighting for a while and they don't have the time to wait for them as they need to win the challenge, before Heather or Cody does. And this is mostly caused by Alejandro's worries of receiving votes last episode and him really wanting the safety layer of invincibility. Heather and Cody walk off still arguing, as Heather eventually admits that she voted for Duncan, asking if Cody's happy now that she admitted it, and Cody says that it's great that she can do this thing he wanted from her hours ago, but that means nothing to him since he already knew. Heather asks so, and Cody answers so it would really matter if she could admit why she voted for Duncan instead of Alejandro, to which Heather blushes and says it was a smarter move, making Cody continue walking, saying he knew she couldn't admit the truth. This causes them to run into the monkeys that Cody originally got kidnapped by, and Heather using her 6 trank balls shoots at the monkeys to save Cody. Cody is thankful for Heather saving him, forgiving her slightly, but still remaining very mad at her, just saying they should head back to the plane since they're prone to animal attacks now with no defense. Alejandro and DJ would travel, and considering how badly Alejandro wants to have the safety net of invincibility, I think he would do the same plan he originally did with Duncan, just now with DJ, pushing him into a bush of berries that smell like blood to essentially use him as lion bait. And I have no reason to believe this wouldn't work, meaning Alejandro wins the challenge. DJ doesn't get too hurt as he's a big guy, and Alejandro shoot the lion early into its attack because he doesn't have to extort him like he did with Duncan, meaning DJ just suffers a claw gash on his chest. Back in the plane cafeteria after the challenge, Alejandro would walk up to DJ asking how the gash is doing, and says he apologizes for the way the lion suddenly attacked DJ and that Alejandro is so hurt that he couldn't save him sooner. DJ sighs and says he understands and they're all good. Alejandro puts a hand on DJ's shoulder thanking him for understanding and walks away. However, DJ glares at the back of Alejandro's head as he walks away. DJ has a confessional mad at Alejandro saying Blaney was right and he's just a manipulator, and he knows it wasn't an accident. But letting Alejandro know that now doesn't help him, so for now he'll sit and wait, but sooner or later Alejandro is going down. Blaney approaches DJ after Alejandro, scolding Alejandro for what he did to DJ, and tells DJ that Heather and Cody have already agreed to voting out Courtney, and asking if he wants in. DJ says what he wants is the truth, and he talked to Cody about what happened last round, so he wants Blaney to tell the truth of who she voted for. Blaney buckles and tells him she voted for Alejandro, but now he has to see why, insisting she was right about him just using DJ, and DJ agrees that she was right, but says they can't vote Courtney. Blaney is shocked, asking why, and DJ explains that if they vote out Courtney now, then Alejandro will know they are against him, and right now it's best if they let him think they're still on his side, and then vote for him next round. Blaney disagrees with this plan since it falls in a similar vein to voting Duncan out first of Courtney, thinking Courtney will go nuts if Alejandro gets voted out first, as this is even more supported by her getting attacked by Courtney today. But DJ says he wasn't asking for her opinion, he was telling her what to do, saying it's been hard to trust Blaney for the last couple of days with all her lying, so she has 2 choices: vote with Cody and Heather and cause a 3-3 tie, or vote with him, Alejandro, and Courtney and prove to him that she's really on DJ's side. Blaney is annoyed but really doesn't want to lose them as an ally, so she agrees and walks off, with DJ again glaring at her with her grin. DJ has a confessional saying that Blaney opening his eyes to Alejandro's treatment of him also showed him that Blaney is just as manipulative in using him, and the difference between her and Alejandro is that one has invincibility and one doesn't. So unlike Alejandro, Alejandro, she will pay, and it will be now. As for the vote, obviously Blaney is voting Heather to keep DJ's trust. Cody and Heather are voting Courtney, since even though they aren't working together, they both view her as the biggest threat around, obviously minus Alejandro, but he has invincibility. And DJ would have talked with Alejandro and Courtney and told them he's ready to vote out Blaney. And Alejandro would want to get rid of Blaney anyway because she's DJ's other ally, and that would solidify DJ with him if she were to go, so they both agree. Meaning in a 3-2-1 vote, Blaney is eliminated. Blaney is completely shocked, stuttering her words, asking how this could have happened, before looking over at DJ, who's smiling, saying you did this. And DJ admits saying he did and that he doesn't need a mama in this game anymore. Courtney says huh, and Alejandro tells her it's best not to get involved. Blaney continues stuttering, surprised, as DJ walks over to the plane exit, and before Blaney jumps, she has her speech again like the original, revealing the stuff about the people there, talking about Zeke still being on the plane, Heather and Alejandro clearly being into each other, which would upset Courtney, and then talks about how she was originally asked to be the host, causing Chris to push her out of the plane. Now, as for who Alejandro would take the first class, this one is really tough to predict because Courtney, DJ, and Cody are all possible, and even to a degree Heather, but I don't think he'd lean that way because he already has Heather pretty firmly in his grasp. Also, if he took Heather, then, Courtney's earlier thoughts of, oh, Heather, Alejandro, something's going on there, that can make Courtney go crazy. So he wouldn't take Heather. But these other three are really, really close. I feel that Alejandro is confident that both DJ and Courtney are already in his corner, so taking them doesn't really help create more bonds, so I do think he'd pick Cody again to start working on him. You might be asking why Alejandro would want more allies when he already has the majority. In his mind he has the majority, DJ's gonna turn on him, but in his mind he already has DJ, Courtney, and himself, so that's already the majority, so you might be wondering why he wants another ally. And I say that because I think Alejandro would actually start planning to vote out Courtney next, since she's still a big challenge threat, so taking her any further into the game would be risky, as Alejandro is really only using her as an extra vote. So he would need another ally to get Courtney out, since Courtney obviously wouldn't agree to vote herself out, and taking Heather, as I said earlier, is too risky because of the Courtney freaking out stuff, leaving Cody as his best option for another ally to pull over. DJ would have a confessional saying it's typical he wouldn't take his lion bait the first class, and make up for what he did, but it's fine. DJ enjoys the wait because sooner or later it will all come crashing down on Alejandro, and it will be by the hands of DJ. Pre-challenge stuff of Alejandro and Cody in first class goes the same as the original, with Alejandro starting to earn Cody's trust by giving him the streets. As for the people in economy class, Courtney would be impatiently tapping her foot as it's driving her crazy that Alejandro didn't take her to first class. Heather tells her that's really unfortunate they voted out Sierra just so that she could channel her crazy into Courtney, making Courtney glare at Heather while standing up and walking off annoyed. Once Courtney is gone, Heather turns to DJ to talk about voting off Courtney, starting off of how she knows he is close to Alejandro and Courtney, but voting with them is the wrong, and DJ puts a finger up to her mouth saying he knows and he's just pretending to still be on their side and he wants Alejandro gone next. However, he questions how much she is willing to, referencing what Blaney said about them being interested in each other and her failing to vote for him last time in China. Heather says as if he's nothing but a handsome jerk that has to go. DJ is doubtful of that but trusts her to follow through and says that's great, but now she has to convince Cody of that since he's still mad at her, and Alejandro is probably working his charm on Cody as they speak. There isn't much to talk about with the first part of the challenge. Alejandro and Cody would travel together like the original due to the basket that Cody has, and Courtney would probably join them because, she likes Alejandro. I do think before the challenge, Alejandro would have told DJ about his plan to vote out Courtney this round, and tells him to go off of Heather to convince her of the plan while Alejandro keeps Courtney busy so she doesn't catch wind in the plan. Meaning, obviously, DJ and Heather would travel together. There is one big thing to figure out which is pretty hard to do with new people here, and it's who would get the egg that hatches that Sierra originally got. Because later in the challenge, that basically decides who wins, and now that there are two new people, it could be either DJ's or Courtney's eggs. And since it's literally 50-50 on who would have gotten it, I decided to spin a random wheel and decide who would get the hatching egg, and it landed on DJ. And because it'd be DJ's egg cracking, he'd be worried about it breaking since that would mean they'd have to go back down, so the baby bird would imprint on him as he's looking on the egg. I do think Alejandro and Cody would still get hit by the boulder since there wasn't much time to dodge it as they were unprepared, and I imagine they'd be even less prepared if all the ass-kissing Alejandro and Courtney would be doing since, Alejandro would want to reassure Courtney that's fine, so he'd want to work on Cody so that they all think they're voting out Heather next, which also reassures Courtney because, she wants Heather gone because she doesn't like what's going on between Alejandro and Heather. Meaning all three of them would have to go back to the bottom to get more eggs. Heather tries to talk to Cody as they pass them, but Cody ignores her. It's also probably important to note that DJ would tell Heather about Alejandro's plan to vote out Courtney, just as a backup in case Alejandro wins. Heather would be happy to hear Alejandro wants to get rid of Courtney because it proves to her that Alejandro does like her, but DJ snaps aggressively near her face, telling her to snap out of it, and he's the enemy. Given that the trio had to head back, the order for the next part of the challenge would probably be Heather, DJ, Cody, Courtney, and Alejandro. But that doesn't really matter. Heather would get the mask, but without the baby bird, she'd just get knocked out by the mama condor, and DJ would win the challenge with the baby bird distracting the condor, like Heather originally did. If this was the actual show, they'd probably make the order different so that it could be a longer challenge with DJ somehow getting last, but it doesn't really matter because either way, he wins the challenge. After the challenge, Heather would find time to talk to Cody to convince him that she's ready to vote out Alejandro, and Cody is still very doubtful, but Heather finally admits the real reason she saved him, which is that she has a little bit of a crush on him, but she's ready to get rid of him now to win. Cody sighs still a bit unsure, but agrees since he really wants Alejandro gone. Besides, even if Heather did vote up Alejandro, it could only cause a tie between Courtney and Alejandro, so either way it's still possible he gets eliminated. And for the vote, there isn't that much to talk about because I kinda already talked about it. Alejandro is voting Courtney, Courtney votes Heather, and then the trio of DJ, Cody, and Heather vote Alejandro. Heather is probably still hesitant, but given now that she's been shamed by DJ and Cody, I think she'd be able to get it through her skull that she's playing too emotionally and she needs to take charge. With that being said, I still think she'd feel bad about doing it, similar to how she acted when she voted for Alejandro and Drumheller originally, but that's neither here nor there. In a free 1-1 vote, Alejandro is eliminated. Alejandro is completely shocked at this elimination, looking around demanding to know who did this, with DJ and Cody raising their hands, and Heather eventually shamefully raising hers too. Alejandro is angry at DJ, with DJ just smiling and saying he wanted to pay back the favor, as this is courtesy for Lindsay. Alejandro is shaking with rage as he then looks at Heather betrayed, but instead of saying anything, he just ignores her. But Courtney recounts the votes and realizes that she voted Heather and the other three voted Alejandro, and there was one more vote for her, so the only other person that could have voted Courtney was Alejandro, making Courtney get really angry and lose it, standing up and pushing Alejandro out of the plane. And DJ would most likely take Heather to first class, both out of kindness since they're the only two that haven't gone to first class since merge, and he also knows if he leaves Cody and Courtney together, they probably will not work together, and if they do, it would most likely be in a vote against Heather since neither of them are a big fan of her. Pre-challenge of Heather and DJ in first class would be pretty peaceful, as they both enjoy being back in first class because they haven't been there in a while. They also talk about the vote and they agree that Courtney has to go next, and Heather even makes a deal with DJ to go to the final two, which DJ being too nice would say he has to think about it instead of just lying and saying yes. This would set off alarms for Heather as she has a confessional, obviously connecting that he wants to go to the end of Cody, which is fair because she wants to too. But if Courtney wins invincibility today, then Heather would be the one who DJ and probably Cody are voting for. So Heather needs to open up some other options as safety measures in case Courtney wins. Cody and Courtney would be in economy class, with Cody freaking out at Courtney's unceived rage, now reaching a new level as she's just sitting still, giving Cody death stares. Cody tries to make small talk, Courtney has none of it, standing up, getting in his face, just asking Heather if she doesn't win, and Cody agrees, making Courtney leave. Courtney has a confessional kind of upset at Alejandro playing her, but she realizes now she was too involved in something that didn't matter, and luckily now she has her head back in the game and she will win no matter what. For the first part of the challenge, there isn't a ton to talk about. Cody and Heather would probably make the same dinosaurs they originally did, with Heather probably going out of her way to get Courtney some supplies to start working on her, which Courtney accepts but doesn't talk any further as she's completely focused on winning and also, doesn't really like Heather. DJ would probably make some sort of emotional display about him missing his mom or feeling bad about being the reason that he and his mom are living in a bus. Courtney is a tough guess, especially for all her anger right now. I'm assuming probably a T-Rex, very angry, destructive, powerful creature matches Courtney's vibe, especially a lot right now. But due to the time constraints and also just not being an archaeologist, she would probably miss certain bones, making it look incomplete. For the votes of the lie detector, Cody would probably vote for DJ because he likes the emotional display. Heather is kinda tough, but I don't really think she'd relay with DJ's emotional display. I don't think she's really in tune with that stuff, and I don't imagine she has the best relationship with her parents, meaning she probably chooses Courtney because, DJ no good because of that, and Cody's was a shit dinosaur, so yeah, not many options. And DJ is similar, with the options being Heather's Chris dinosaur and Cody's shit dinosaur. I think Courtney's is the only real appealing option there, because he doesn't like Chris, and I don't think he would lie about liking Cody's. And Courtney's kind of up in the air, but I'm thinking it's very similar to Heather. I don't think she would really relate to the emotional display, necessarily getting that side of art, so I don't think she'd care about DJ's emotional display, and I don't think she could like the shit dinosaur Cody makes. So even though she hates Chris, I do think she would appreciate the detail that Heather put into the dinosaur, meaning she'd vote for Heather. This means that Courtney would get the drill, and Heather and DJ would get the pickaxes, while Cody gets nothing. Heather travels with Courtney trying to have a girl talk and thank her for voting Heather's dinosaur, to which Courtney says she wished she could have lied so she can avoid having this fake conversation. Heather receives the message and drops the friendly act of this comment, and says she knows that neither of them like each other, but they have to work together. Courtney asks what Heather wants. Heather replies that they can't let DJ make it into the finale as he's too strong and neither of them stand a chance against him, which Courtney agrees with and hesitates, but says she'll vote DJ as long as Heather promises not to vote Courtney. Heather pauses on this since voting out DJ was supposed to be a backup if Courtney won invincibility, but Heather can't risk Courtney winning and Heather going, especially since she won the drill, so Heather agrees. DJ and Cody will be traveling together as Cody really has no chance of finding an oil barrel with no pick or anything, so he just decides to help DJ to make sure Courtney doesn't win. Now, given this challenge really doesn't require any actual skill, just plain luck, I decided to just give the win to the person I felt had the best chance to win, which I think would be DJ. Sure, Courtney has the drill, but we saw from Heather with her pickaxe that the barrels aren't buried that deep, so DJ doesn't really need to dig very far down for pickaxe to find a barrel, he only needs to hit it into the ground and then find it. And the drill is a really big advantage in that, but the big thing is that Courtney is traveling with Heather. And even though Heather is making this deal with Courtney, obviously she's not going to really follow through on it. It's Heather. Her word doesn't mean a lot. And if Courtney did find a barrel, I imagine Heather would do everything in her power to sabotage Courtney from actually getting the barrel back to base to win invincibility. And you compare that with DJ, who if he found a barrel, he could easily run back to camp with it with no struggle given he's such a big guy. So he would be able to be quicker moving with a barrel, not only because of his larger strength compared to Courtney, but also due to the fact that Heather would be sabotaging Courtney from winning. So in other words, even though Courtney has the digging advantage, I think DJ has a much bigger actually transporting the barrel back advantage. And because he won, that makes the vote pretty easy. Heather could have potentially followed through on the deal with Courtney if Cody won, but since DJ won and they can't vote DJ, which was what they agreed on, Heather really doesn't have any other choice but to vote Courtney. Courtney would probably try to talk with Heather to vote out Cody, but that's not a very effective plea because Cody is a dream to go to the finale with because, you know, he's not that threatening in challenges. So yeah, in a 3-1 vote, Courtney is eliminated. Courtney is mad at Heather for backing out of their deal, as Heather reminds her that the deal was to vote for DJ, and since he won invincibility, she wasn't forced to follow through anymore. But as she reveals this, DJ asks what, being upset at hearing that Heather was conspiring a plan against him, making Heather have a confessional just simply saying, oops. This Aftermath group divisions change a lot due to DJ being here, because as you would expect, he gets support from a lot of people. Some minor differences to note before we get to that though is first off, Courtney and Ezekiel aren't in this Aftermath because they are still in Drumheller, and for some reason Izzy wasn't here originally, no idea why, but to honor that to the original, I won't add her here. And since Blaney wasn't eliminated in China, she wouldn't be injured in this Aftermath. For DJ's group, I think he gets Noah, Justin, Katie, Sadie, Tyler, Lindsay, he gets everybody except the 4 I'm gonna mention for Cody and Heather's groups. For Cody's group, I think he gets Sierra, obviously, that's given, and Harold. Harold is a bit of a tough one. I do think he could lean DJ for a variety of reasons. DJ's a good guy and they were both on Team Victory together. He would like that DJ's made it this far, but Cody's just the underdog and Harold really seems like someone who roots for the underdog. So I think he'd want Cody to win more than he'd want DJ to win, even though it's very close. You could say he supports DJ here. I wouldn't be upset at that, but I think just the element of Cody being an underdog and Harold being an underdog, you know, he can relate to Cody's story a bit more than DJ's. Then again, it's also possible he likes DJ more because he voted out Alejandro. It doesn't really matter. And for Heather's group, I think she gets Blaney. Blaney kind of tough. Obviously, she's not rooting for DJ, but I don't think she'd be rooting for Cody either because Cody doesn't really seem like he actually has a chance to win. So I don't think she'd waste her time, you know, being a part of Cody's group. She'd think that Heather has the next best chance to beat DJ. And Alejandro, which obvious they have a crush on each other. Alejandro could still be mad about Heather voting for him, but the thing is, so did DJ and Cody. So it's not exactly like Alejandro's options here are great. So I do think Heather is the most appealing option to Alejandro. And as for the volunteer nominations, Sierra would go for Cody because she's obviously more dedicated than Harold, even though I do think he would offer, but Sierra would instantly shut him down saying wives should go for their husbands, and Harold leaves it at that, agreeing with her. DJ has a lot of options, but since it's a life-threatening challenge, his volunteer would have to be someone who's really willing and wanting him to win, and the only person I think that fits that criteria is Lindsay. However, Tyler likes Lindsay a lot, and he wouldn't want her to be in danger, so he volunteers in her place, also because he likes DJ anyways, and he's a real extreme, thrill-seeking guy, so this seems right up his alley. And Heather, I don't really think either of them would want to do it, but Alejandro does want to give Heather the best chance of winning, so he'd volunteer for her. For the options to volunteer or choose for the spirit animals for their finalists, I think Sierra would probably choose a deer for Cody's spirit animal like Harold did, since it does match Cody pretty well, and she would have a gentle, cute idea of Cody, so the deer fits that pretty spot on. There's actually a couple good options that Tyler could choose for DJ. Dolphin would work since they're very friendly like DJ, and I do think people in DJ's group would talk about that option, giddy about how sweet he is, but Tyler being the thrill seeker he is would probably see the animals to try and connect us to DJ's strength, choosing a moose since like DJ it's tall, but won't attack unless provoked. Alejandro's choice is really between the Doberman and the Jaguar since they're both very aggressive like Heather, but I think he leans more Doberman since like a dog there's a bit of a soft side to Heather that he notices, mainly around him. The challenge will start with Alejandro and Tyler making it to the top of the hill first, where they catch up for a bit before Sierra runs past them, knocking Tyler to the ground while quickly grabbing a flower necklace and a surfboard about to jump. But before she can, Jeff catches up telling them to slow it down since he has one more piece of challenge information to give, making the song bell play, Alejandro and Sierra groan as they sing and begin the challenge. Tyler eventually gets up about halfway into the song song and starts but is considerably far behind. I think Sierra would make it to the end first, and being as good as she is at challenges would get the necklace on the deer first. There is a slight consideration if she messed up a bit then the deer could eat the necklace, but I don't think that Sierra would let that happen, seeing as she wouldn't let herself slip up like Harold did originally because she's fully focused, deranged, 100% mental capacity going to make sure Cody wins. Alejandro would fly up next and get his necklace on the Doberman, I imagine with very little issues, as not only is he strong, but he could most likely pacify the dog, as we see he's pretty good with animals. And Tyler would come out last, shooting way over the animals, and in typical Tyler fashion, wiping out in the water with a belly flop. Cody gets the first place prize, Heather gets the second place prize, and DJ gets nothing. Obviously all if they make it to the finale or not. Originally the plane blew up due to Sierra, and since she isn't here now, the plane would no longer blow up. However, the entire challenge revolved around the plane blowing up, and because I have no way of knowing what the challenge would have been without that, I'm just going to say the challenge remains the same. Just instead of the plane blowing up, Chris and Chef would leave the contestants behind a drum peller. Also, since Courtney isn't part of the race, they would let her come since there's no reason not to. DJ would confront Heather, still upset about hearing Heather targeting him last round, as Heather tells him to calm down and it was only a backup plan. Besides, it wasn't like he was in any actual danger since he won invincibility. DJ gets in her face, asking and if he hadn't, making Heather nervous at his directness since he's usually very calm, as she just says he's got a really intense look while walking off. Cody walks up to DJ after the confrontation, asking if he's good, and that was a bit much, and DJ says he knows, but he just can't believe she would lie to him like that, and Cody agrees, saying he knows the feeling. DJ asks Cody his opinion on a final 2 deal with them, and Cody says it sounds good while they high-five and travel together. Since the plane didn't blow up, Cody wouldn't be able to make a hot air balloon again, as none of the supplies would be there, and I'm unsure if either of them would think to follow the production truck because neither of them really have a foot in that world. So I think they would just walk off into Drumheller. Heather would poke her head out from a rock as they walk past her, glaring at them as she has a confessional saying she can't believe those two would shame her for playing the game, when they're doing the exact same thing to her, leaving her out. But it's fine because like usual, Heather will make all the good things happen to her, and destroy either one of them in the finale. Heather watched them walk off, so she would know that she'd have to use a different method of transportation to have any chance of passing them, and that's when she notices the production trucks and gets the same idea as Alejandro originally to hide in them. DJ and Cody, like Heather, would pretty early on run into the train tracks and decide to ride the train. When Heather gets in the truck, she brags DJ and Cody with their walkie-talkies, telling them she's traveling via truck, so they better hope their scrawny legs can keep up. Prompting Cody to just ask how do you think a train would do, while him and DJ laugh over their walkie-talkie. This makes Heather panic as she wants to get out of the truck and go on the train, but ends up tripping into a box like Alejandro originally. The truck would release its contents plus Heather onto the back of the train, as Heather eventually kicks her way out of the box and takes a second to evaluate where she is, and realizing she's on the same train Cody and DJ are. As she explores the back of the train more, she finds Feral Ezekiel and gets the plan to release him on the train so Cody and DJ get distracted, as she moves her way on top of the train carts to get in front of them and release the pin holding their cart to the train. She follows through on her plan and releases Ezekiel on the train, where DJ and Cody notice him, completely shocked at his look. Suddenly he pounces on DJ, tackling him to the ground, and Cody thinks about it and wonders how Ezekiel could possibly get on the train. Heather also then at the same moment climbs on top of the train cart as she takes silent steps. But as she's walking over the top, it starts to hail like the original, making her get pelt by hail, causing her to mutter an ow, before trying to silence herself. But Cody, who was already wondering about Ezekiel, would hear Heather on top of the train cart, prompting him to run out of the room and catch Heather trying to rip the pin holding their train cart. Cody will confront her about what she's doing as Heather awkwardly chuckles and says, "It's a small world, huh?" Cody tackles her to the floor, and as they're both struggling on the ground, Chris plays the song bell, making everyone sing, including DJ who's fighting Ezekiel. Heather would take this time of Cody being upset about the bell playing to escape his clutches and continue running to the front of the train, making Cody follow after, knowing that she's trying to disconnect them and she'll succeed if he doesn't stop her. The song consists of Cody chasing after Heather as they end up going on top of the train cart because one of the doors is locked and Heather had no choice but to go up to escape Cody. And DJ also has some lines while fighting Ezekiel, seeing as DJ is a pretty big and strong guy, he's able to hold his own, throwing Zeke off multiple times, but Ezekiel keeps charging him back to the ground or scratching him up. The song would come to an end with Cody almost slipping off the top of the train due to the hail making the floor slippery, but Heather grabs his arm and pulls him back onto the train at the last second. DJ finally overpowers Ezekiel and throws him back in the last train cart and locks the door, while looking very scratched up. He celebrates finally stopping Zeke, asking Cody where he was to see that Cody is no longer in the room, making him confused. DJ hears pouting and looks back in the train cart, and through the window on the door, he sees Ezekiel with a sad look on his face. At first, DJ is against letting him out, but eventually DJ's kindness refuses to let him leave Ezekiel like that, making him promise to not attack him anymore, and when Ezekiel agrees to that, DJ lets him out. Cody is on the ground, stunned from almost falling off the train, thanking Heather for saving him. As Heather says it wasn't like she was going to let him fall, besides she wants to go to the end with him. Cody asks why he should trust her since she keeps lying to him, as Heather says that's true, but he should trust her now because she has a good reason, saying neither of them stand a chance against DJ in the finale because he's too strong in challenges. She pushes harder, telling Cody she knows that they are close, but there's no way he survived on this death trap of a show till the final 3 just to give up now. He should play to win, and his best chance to win is against Heather. Cody has a troubled look on his face as he looks like he's agreeing with her. DJ walks through some train carts with Ezekiel as he helps convince the others on the train that Ezekiel just has some quirks, but the questioning stops when DJ notices the train isn't moving anymore, as he runs through the carts to see his side of the train disconnected, and Cody Cody and Heather on the other side, as Heather waves by and taunts him, while Cody remains silent. DJ feels defeated as he takes a seat on the ground trying to figure out what to do next, saying at least I have you while looking at Ezekiel, but Ezekiel then promptly runs off to chase after the train. This makes DJ sigh, but he looks to the side and notices horses giving him an idea to ride the horses. And because DJ has a good connection with animals, I think he'd be able to pull this off, allowing him to ride a horse. And we saw in the original that the horses were much faster than the train, but considering they just cut a lot of weight off the train, I'm willing to say the horse is still faster, but not by much now. Meaning DJ would get to the boats first, but because he has to hear Chris explain the boats and driving off, he would only ride off a couple seconds before Heather and Cody arrive. Heather is exhausted and upset that he's going to beat them. Cody tells her to leave it to him, and he'll get DJ behind, which Heather is fine with as they both continue. And like the original how Cody distracted Alejandro to make him crash into the mine, he would do that now, but just with DJ. I don't think DJ would be as easily coerced into a swordfish fight like Alejandro was, but Cody would just be able to try and talk with DJ and apologize for the train, as DJ blows off his apologies saying this isn't the time, and he's here to win with or without Cody. Cody says he really is sorry, and he's also sorry for this, as DJ is confused by what he means until he ends up hitting the mine in the water and getting launched in the sky. Heather, like the original of Cody slowing down the other competitor, is able to make it to land first, and like Cody and Alejandro originally, DJ's boat would come crashing down to Cody's, making them both crash into the land at the same time. But it's really obvious that Cody would lose a tiebreaker in the next episode, and I think it's more fitting for him to be eliminated here, so I'm just going to save us the time and say that Cody doesn't get launched towards the land, and DJ makes it second, and Cody comes last, getting eliminated. Besides, this also makes more sense because Alejandro's, i.e. now DJ's boat, hits the center of Cody's boat, meaning that the side that Cody is on is facing away from the land, meaning that the impact should have launched him further in the water, not to the land side. None of that really matters, but yeah, I just feel like it saves time to get him eliminated now, and it's more fitting that Cody gets eliminated here. You know, he turned on his morals against his friend, and that was the end, showing, you know, he should have stayed true to himself because he's a good guy. You get it. And with that, we're at the finale. If you're new here, typically when we get to the finale and what ifs, I don't treat it like a what if anymore. I kind of treat it more like a rewrite because we already have all the results. You know, this is the elimination order. It's all kind of actualized here. So I just want to end on a satisfying note, doing what I feel I need to do to make the ending as satisfying as possible. Because we saved some time with Cody being eliminated last episode, we don't have to cover that. The finalists would both have confessionals before the challenge, talking about their experience and how it is to be so close to winning. And Chris would show these confessionals to everyone before the challenge. Heather's is pretty bleak, talking about how her experience was difficult, and it doesn't help that she's facing the brick wall DJ in the final challenge, but she swears that she won't quit and she'll break him down if she has to. This remark gets her glares from the cast as Heather chuckles awkwardly, saying poor taste of humor, it must just be the stress. DJ has his confessional and he's ecstatic to be at the finale, thanking everyone for his experience, and even talking about how Team Victory might be able to hold true to their name. He even ends it talking about Heather, saying she might have been nasty to him at points, but he respects her hard work and is glad that if he might lose to anybody, it'd be her. This makes the cast jeer in awe of sweetness, as DJ is even kind about Heather. But this makes Heather glare to the side, upset that even in confessionals he's nice. For the helpers, DJ obviously has a lot of options, but it's an issue of finding a good mix of people who like DJ, which is everybody, but also finding people who are willing to put their life on the line as a helper, which cuts it down considerably. But one clear standout to me was Lashana. We've seen she's willing to do dangerous challenges plenty of times on the show, she loves DJ and also hates Heather, so that's all a good mix of strengths, plus she's just a very competent challenge competitor, so if she offered to be a helper, I see no reason why DJ would say no. And since Lashana is volunteering, I think Harold would also volunteer since we saw he was willing in the original, so now I think he would. He was rooting for Cody in the aftermath, but like I said, it was really close, and since Cody isn't here anymore, DJ is definitely who Harold would want to win. And DJ would accept Harold's offer since he's decent in challenges at times, but more importantly, it reunites Team Victory, which DJ would like, you know, because they didn't win and he's from Team Victory, so he'd want Team Victory to kind of ended out on his win. Heather has considerably less options, but I think the two on her team from the aftermath would volunteer, being Alejandro and Blaney, since they are really the only two I think wouldn't want DJ to win. They would both smirk evilly at DJ as they walk to Heather's side as helpers, as DJ has a confessional saying it really sucks he had to make such powerful enemies in the game. The effigy building challenge is pretty closely matched. I do think Heather's helpers would be slightly better since DJ has Harold, and Harold does have good skills, but this challenge is basically solely how much supplies you can carry, and Harold doesn't really have a lot of like carrying, lifting heavy seeing strength. But Heather's helpers also have to build a much bigger DJ, so it's tough to tell. But like I said earlier, I treat finales as rewrites, so this doesn't really matter anyway because it's only a 20-second head start. So I'm just going to choose the winner what I feel is more appropriate for what's happening in the arcs, which means I'm choosing to say Heather's helpers finish first. I just feel that it's more in line that the first time Team Victory reunites they lose again because that creates, you know, some doubt with DJ, maybe it's the wrong plan, which makes it more interesting. And Heather winning this is actually very ironic because it's not that helpful, it's just a 20-second head start. So I feel it's very in line for her arc of pushing through that the one time she wins, it doesn't even help her that much. This is added on with Heather even more when Chris gives the finalists the rewards that the supporters won in the Aftermath challenge, as Chris pushes aside Cody's real barrel, since he isn't here, and gives Heather the baby carriage and DJ his nothing. DJ sarcastically thanks Tyler, while Tyler takes it sincerely, saying no problem, making Lashana roll her eyes. Heather taunts DJ, telling him it's fitting he goes in a baby carriage, as she puts her effigy in it, but very quickly the effigy breaks the baby carriage. This makes DJ and his helpers laugh, as Heather complains, but Chris cuts her off, telling her head start is over, and DJ can go, making him carry his effigy, zooming past Heather. Blatantly tell Heather to shut it and keep moving, as Heather groans but picks up the heavy effigy on her back and continues. DJ would get to the lava stepping stones first, but Heather would come up shortly after, not far behind. Chris gave the helpers the choice to protect or cut the ropes, and given that DJ is a sweetheart, I think he would tell his helpers to not drop anything, while I think Alejandro and Blaney would take it into their own hands to want to cut the ropes to slow down DJ. Lashana and Harold would block the ropes, as Alejandro looks at Lashana with a grin, asking how she's been, saying she looks like she's glowing, trying to flirt with her, but Lashana, learning from the game, says it isn't going to work anymore, pretty boy. Harold takes offense to this and gets in between Alejandro and Lashana as he challenges Alejandro to a duel, while showing off many attacks, but while he's doing this, Blaney just kicks him in the groin. This makes Lashana charge Blaney, pinning her to the ground, but leaving the opportunity for Alejandro to cut a rope, which he does, but that particular rope ends up dropping a heavy item on Heather's side. She dodges last second while scolding Alejandro. Alejandro asks which ropes are against DJ, and Chef shrugs, not knowing. Harold on the ground tells Lashana to stop Al before he cuts another rope, and like the original, this makes Alejandro break down as he reveals his brother Jose and how he called him Al and he hates it. This revelation makes DJ taunt Al, repeatedly calling him Al, as he even recalls all the times Owen called him that. And this distracts Alejandro long enough for Lashana to get back up and knock Alejandro to the side, and cut a rope, which ends up being the rope that drops the cage down on Heather, like the original, allowing DJ the pass and continuing the challenge as Heather drops to her knees defeated. Alejandro tells Heather to get up and she can't quit now, as Heather asks what the point is since she can't get out of the stupid cage, and everyone wants DJ to win and he deserves it because he's a good guy and she isn't. Alejandro agrees with her that she isn't good, but tells her she's worked harder than anyone in the game and he won't let her quit now when she's this close. Heather smirks at Alejandro and stands up, knocking the cage over and continuing on the challenge. Realistically, since DJ had such a big lead over Heather here, carry a Heather-sized effigy a lot faster than Heather would carry a DJ-sized one, he would win no matter what. But since I write for alternate winners, I wanted to find a way to have DJ slow down instead of just saying Heather somehow passes him because it seems so unlikely. So I have the idea that as DJ is running up the volcano, feral Ezekiel shows up from behind. This works out anyway since Zeke comes at the end, so I'm just moving that toward now. Zeke would be exhausted from scaling the mountain quickly and falls to the ground next to DJ, catching his breath. Because DJ created a connection with Ezekiel last episode, he would greet Ezekiel, telling him it's great that he can make it to the finale, and now all of Team Victory can reunite when they get to the top. DJ notices Ezekiel's lack of hair and says he might want to look a little more presentable, as he drops his own hat on Zeke's head. And this is what creates the alternate winning endings. In DJ's winning ending, he continues in the challenge and throws his effigy in the volcano and wins. DJ is elated at the win as everyone cheers for him and he does a mini dance. Heather comes up behind DJ just after, exhausted, and drops to her knees defeated. She's bummed to have lost and Alejandro comforts her, saying she tried her best and if it's any consolation prize, he'd be glad to grace her with a date after the show. To which Heather plays offensive, asking him if he really thinks that would make her feel better, and Alejandro grins and says he really does while putting a finger under her chin, making Heather blush. And in Heather's winning ending, DJ would explain to Ezekiel that he has to continue, saying he has to throw the effigy in the volcano to win, and Zeke, hearing those words, would associate the effigy of winning and quickly leap at the effigy, trying to pull it from DJ's hands. As this fight happens, Heather would pass DJ and throw her effigy into the volcano. Heather celebrates as Alejandro comes up shortly after, pulling her into a bear hug, also celebrating with her. There's a very awkward pause of no one cheering for Heather that lasts for a while, until DJ comes up and, saying that he already lost, wants to still give her credit as he claps for her while saying good job. This doesn't make people necessarily cheer for Heather, but they do applaud her respectively, which is more than enough to make Heather happy. And there you go, that's what if DJ never got the animal curse. I don't know how to feel about this universe. I think one thing I'm finding with World Tour What Ifs is that I'm never gonna be happy with them because I just really like the original. I don't feel like any finale is better than the original. I don't feel like any story is better than the original. They did mess up some things, like I don't like how they handled Noah or Tyler or Cody and Sierra. Like it wasn't a perfect season, but generally like everything that happened was really good and I really love the season. I think it's so hard when I do a What If and I actually feel like it's worse than the original because that's a feeling I don't get too often. Like whenever I do a Pakatu Island or All Stars What If, I don't feel like it's worse than the original because it's such a low bar. Like even if I don't make it perfect, I can still say this is better than what we got. But I don't really like this What If any more than the original. I think I would have still preferred the original in the world. But it was nice for what it was. I think it was nice that Blaney got to have a bit more of an influence and actually got to play in like a central role of the plot instead of just, you know, coming to get eliminated for no reason. And obviously it was nice that DJ actually got to have a long story and a long stay with significance to the plot that was outside of him just suffering or cheating or not really doing anything. But unfortunately that was at the cost of making Alejandro go, which I'm not a fan of. I think Heather and Alejandro is the finale world tour. Anything else doesn't feel real to me. Everything else just feels wrong. Like, they are the finale to me, and not having that in any world just feels criminal to me. It's fine for what it was. It was a fun thing to explore. It was nice that DJ got to have a substantial plot. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it too, and bye.